Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Saturday, September 13th. Um, so I've been getting a lot of views on my videos, and I didn't check this till last night because I was busy just trying to get these videos up. So I made a video entitled "What I Really Think Is Going On with Charlie Kirk," and that has 7,000 views now. I put out another video, smoking gun image of Epstein book, Trump image, and I put that video up in the same day, and that got 2,000 views. So, and that was kind of a big video, but it got stepped on by Charlie Kirk getting shot. And those videos, my videos usually get 98%, 97, 98, 100%, 94% likes to dislike ratio, right? So the what's really going on with Charlie Kirk got 96, so it's down a point. F. Charlie Kirk, let's find out everything about this other guy who shot him. Just on the title alone, I think got 92% likes. And I usually don't look at this thing, but I knew there'd be some pushback, so I did. And there's 169 comments to the first video and 135 to the second. The second video has 3,000 views already, and it was just put up last night. And so this video you'll see today, sometime in the Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. And so I haven't gotten to the comments, so I'm sure that I'll be covering the comments, some of them, because what you get here is the truth. And I don't want to say it's the truth, but I'm not pandering or lying or changing what I see. What I see might be distorted. What I see might be, I'm not going to be right. I'm not a, perfect truth teller, right? Like that's, in a way that doesn't exist. But I don't care about this, first of all. I never even heard of Charlie Kirk till yesterday. And, he's a real POS. And the reason that I say he's a POS more than any other thing that you can do is use God to push an agenda. Use God to push a political agenda, right? That's always, they're not just a political agenda. I mean, you'll be a God person who's a pedo, or a God person who's, somebody who talks about God and then does evil shit, right? That's the worst thing for me. And again, I'm aware of the debauched society, the corrupt society that's collapsing, and there's nothing we can do to save it. So I'm not, oh my God, this is, the end of the world. We got to stop this thing, right? But that's why I'm always going to be more harsh on somebody who uses God, uses people's faith to push an agenda. Anybody who uses God to push Trump into presidency, which Charlie Kirk did, and then use it on young people who will, have some crisis of faith. See, what happens when you use God is that people buy into you, and if you're good at it, if you're good at using God, if you're a good person who can, can quote scripture and just, and appear to be a good godly person. I mean, I'll show you a new video of Charlie Kirk in a second. Not a new video, a video that was, all of a sudden I'm getting all these Charlie Kirk videos recommended because I watched a couple of his videos. And if you are able to do it, where you're able to convince people you're a godly person, and then people realize you're a piece of shit, they associate that with God, right? So if you're a priest and you sexually abuse a kid, these kids grow up hating God, right? Because they associate God with the priest, and the priest is a pedophile. And it's hard to break them free from that for obvious reasons, right? Because there's a different level of trust when someone is supposed to be a godly person. When a person talks with, about God and these things, you have a different level of trust in them, right? And so when you present God to young people, then you turned out to be a, lying sack of shit, and you take advantage of them, monetize your shit, you push Trump on them, whatever. And Trump does what Trump is doing now, and they realize that you fucked them over. you deceive them because you're older than them and you know more, and you gain their trust through godly words, and people associate you with God and think that there is no God, or God is bad, or whatever it is. Why didn't God protect me from this piece of shit was using God's words? And so they rebel against God. So it's always the worst thing. My wife and I very seldom argue. She agrees with me, like, what I say in my videos almost all the time. Two people can't agree 100%. But one time we argued is because I said something in my video about how these pedophile priests were worse than Jeffrey Epstein, and she didn't agree with that, and I explained why in this thing, because of this, right? Because if somebody's using God and doing bad shit, it's worse than somebody who's just an out-and-out criminal, right? An out-and-out piece of shit. Like, Trump doesn't hide that he's a piece of shit. It's just that his people can't see him. And so there's always going to be that, and that's Charlie Kirk. And he's been martyred. They're using the term martyr. His wife used it, and Trump used it, which is a very weighted term. And we've reached this stage. So there's been this push for division in America since ever, the left and the right, but it gained maximum strength, it was turbocharged during the Trump and Hillary Clinton election, because I don't think that right-wing people hated anybody more than they hated Hillary Clinton. I don't think she was like their maximum person they would hate, and her being like a feminist, a woman, the obnoxious and so unlikable. And then the stuff with Bill Clinton, that they hated Bill Clinton, and like you hated her even more. And so she was well hated by the right. There's a lot of passion. I mean, lock her up, this stuff. They wanted blood with Hillary Clinton. And Trump, of course, protected her and admitted to it after, I mean, like, this is how bad fucking Trump's deceived his dummies. But Trump not only was hated by the left, like nobody's been hated like by the left as much as Trump has. And the hatred has grown. Like, it was bad when Hillary Clinton. So when they ran against each other, they had the worst, negative numbers of people who disliked them of any two candidates. And their debates and everything that they did was fiery. Hillary Clinton's very tough and very, aggressive in these things. And she, she's like a pit bull, kind of, Sarah Palin said she was a pit bull, but like Hillary Clinton was like a real one. And of course, Trump's Trump. And that division that happened then, and the people on Trump's side loved him. So like, it was crazy because Trump created love. Trump, people either loved him or hated him. And the left and the right have been divided in a way that it's just been getting worse, and this divide will never be healed. Where both sides think they're the good guys, and the other guys are the evil guys. So this is, and, I'll show you a clip from this Fox News clown. And he's, pushing this idea out there, which the right wing is, that hateful rhetoric brought about this assassination attempt, right? That this hateful rhetoric that the left has been pushing. Of course, Trump said this immediately after the assassination attempt. So there was no sense of let's try to tamp down the hatred between people. If you ever see the movie Gandhi, the British when the British came in, they did divide and conquer in India. And they pushed, hatred between the Muslims and the Indians. So that's why there's a place called Pakistan where the Muslims went, and India where the Hindus went, right? So you had Hindus versus Muslims. And Gandhi came in and, basically found a way to get the British to get kicked out of India. And the British kept on saying, well, the reason we need to stay here is because you guys will kill each other, the Muslims and the Hindus. And the Muslims were, like, outnumbered significantly. India is mostly a Hindu country. And when that happened, when the British were kicked out, they did the divide and conquer thing so much, that these Muslims and Hindus were going in the streets, and like citizens were just like turning into mobs and killing each other. throwing babies against walls and shit like that, like it got bad. And, because of this kind of thing, this divide. I mean, we got, they had to split up into these two countries, and there's still these tensions and hatred so many years later, right? It was just, now they both have nuclear bombs and stuff. So, but this is what happens. And so there's a stage in this thing, and, when this happens, where political leaders are assassinated, right? There's assassination attempts between, of course, Gandhi eventually was assassinated. And, he would think he was assassinated by a Hindu. I mean, it should have been a Muslim, but it was a Hindu, and, because he was Hindu and whatever it was. But it probably was powerful people that wanted to exacerbate the conflict or whatever it might be. And so, in the beginning, there's hatred and there's hateful words. But when they start assassinating leaders, there becomes martial law, because now the people with power don't feel like they're safe anymore. When things get so bad in a country, and it really hasn't reached that level yet, because people are still distracted by the internet and by food and by, their lifestyle, where they're pacified. But, this thing has happened now, and Trump already has troops on the streets. And so they're moving into this where every citizen, like when some random fuck, like this kid is being, again, I don't know, there'll probably be more information about this kid today. They'll be dropping the information. This is the day they drop the information about. This is if he has a manifesto, if they've created a manifesto for him. It's when they drop the manifesto and all the rest of it, right? So, this is when they roll everything out. And it's if this thing is completely controlled and an inside job, then or if they just have hijacked it. I don't know if it's organic or not. I don't know what's happened here. I mean, it's different than the Trump assassination attempt. And remember, everybody, that I think the only person, the first day, the only person in the so-called truth community to call bullshit on the Trump fake assassination attempt, the Band-Aid gate and the ketchup gate were terms that I created that are now being widely discussed, because I say things that other people don't say, because I don't care and I see things differently, right? Also, I want to say that, the videos got released 2 in one day. So I'm really these videos were all going to go up later, but now because of the information, the breaking news with this thing with Charlie Kirk, I'm going to be releasing these videos daily. And so eventually I'm going to skip a day or whatever it is, because just to get back to my normal, routine. But either way, right? So this is something that I have said things that other people won't say, and then I end up being right, and then people eventually catch up, right? This is, and there's lots of reasons for this. And so we've entered this time of assassinations. And even though Trump, we know almost nothing about the fake guy that they created, the patsy that was, either a dead guy, a body they put up on the roof, or just some, bullshit, whatever that thing was with Trump's assassination attempt. They are pushing this agenda now. And the right is saying what the left had always said. Now, the left had said this during 9/11. January 6th. And then all the other times, that Trump's hateful rhetoric was making people violent. There's a time where that lady from Michigan, like when Gretchen Whitmer, there was some plot hatched to kidnap her or kill her or something. And they busted these guys, and they said that Trump's rhetoric was creating this. And now the Republicans are saying the same thing about the liberals. So we've reached a new level. And every person then becomes a terrorist or a suspect, and, pushing these things, right? And I've said this over and over again. The hate is something inside of you. The object of your hate is something that is outside of you, in which the hate that is inside of you is pushed, that is attached to. But you have to get rid of the hate inside of you. Hate is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing for you to have. It destroys you from the inside. I mean, anger is can be bad, but it's natural. Fear can be bad, can be exacerbated, but it's natural, right? But hate is something that's inside of you that eats you away, resentment and all these things. And when you start hating, people will get obsessed at hate so much that they'll forget about their loved ones. They'll forget about the good in their life. They'll forget about God and gratitude. Hate is all consuming. It's a clear thing in the Sajmark system. You have hate, you throw it out, right? But both sides, and particularly the right in this circumstance right now, are churning up the hate, right? They are creating the hate. And they've created this martyr in Charlie Kirk who's used God to push this stuff on people like this, his agenda, his political agenda, and Trump. We're going to get into his wife, and, I always hesitate whenever I think something is, whatever level of fake something is, whatever level of, false flag something is, whatever level of whatever it is, I hesitate to certainly go after the grieving loved ones, because I don't know if this guy was actually, I think he's actually, I don't know what it is, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I haven't looked at the videos and all of it, but there's an agenda here. And his wife is pushing this agenda, coming out, 2 days after he's dead, and weeping and getting up there. And I'm going to get into that a little bit, as respectful as I can be. But, there's this thing, like I said, when people look at me and say, I'm a spiritual leader, and people have called me a spiritual master because of, I had a spiritual master, Master Charlie, and I'm not that, right? Because I don't have a commitment to you all the way that Master Charlie and Babaji and Lalaji, the three good masters of Sajmark system, had towards their people, sacrificing their lives for the good of, working for God, for the benefit of all of us who did the practice. And they were just always there for you. And they were committed to, the betterment of their disciples, of the people that followed them. They didn't see themselves as masters. They saw themselves as servants of God, right? As working for God, not as people coming to them and bolstering their egos and telling them how great they were and giving them money and, whatever it is, right? The cult level of stuff when these fake gurus, they serve God and tirelessly, and I can't even get into that. But I'm not willing to do that because people suck. I talk about God and I'm on a spiritual path, but I could easily get a following, but I am clear that I'm not fit for it, right? I don't have the temperament, I don't have the commitment, and I don't really want followers. I don't want people to, I want people to take what I say and do the practice, this incredible practice of Sajmark system. To me, it's the best spiritual, it's the best practice to connect people to the divinity within them because of the transmission, but the cleaning, which is a new thing, the cleaning of impressions that people have. And so, it's a system that for those of us who have done it, it works incredibly, and we have deepened our connection to God and become more of what God wants us to become. I mean, it's an amazing system, but people still suck. And, with Daji doing what he did, the fourth master of the system, him collapsing and him, just completely, crumbling under the pressure of his position or whatever it is. It's just a testament to how bad people suck. And all the other people I know, people I respect, who weren't able to navigate this collapse. When a spiritual system falls into the religion category, religions are organizations that take advantage of people, and spiritual organizations help you connect to God. And a spiritual person, when Jesus was alive, he helped you to connect to God. But what you have with Christianity now is this powerful organization that takes advantage of its followers and acts as a middleman between you and God. And there's nothing worse than that. There's nothing worse than taking God's words, taking God's teachings, taking people's faith in God, and turning it into something that profits you in a dishonest fucking way and making it political. And so this clip came out of Charlie Kirk that I watched yesterday. Some old guy challenged him to a fight. It's kind of a good video. It's a little bit funny. And it's everything that I'm going to show you about it is what Charlie Kirk was. And now, then his wife, I want to get into her speech about the martyrdom and these things. And then this things with Jesse Walters about him, trying to demonize the left and exacerbate tensions, the Fox News guy. And then we'll find more out about this shooter. I forgot his name already. I'll remember it, when I need to. And we'll see what they roll out in terms of his political views and who he is as a person. And this is what is going to happen this weekend, today or tomorrow. And then I'll put this video up and then continue on with this coverage because, it is. And there's a little bit of a new development about Jeffrey Epstein that's going unnoticed, like I said, the first day, that Trump is the winner. And I'm also continuing on with this theme. So Trump is the devil that the right-wing truthers had always worried about, right? And I talked about this like 5 or 6 videos ago. With Trump bringing in martial law, first of all, there is the number one pedo in the view of many in this country and maybe even the world, is Jeffrey Epstein, right? Jeffrey Epstein has now become the face of pedophilia, right? He is the number one creep. And Trump was his best buddy. So that's like really bad, right? And he's like that. He's like, Trump's creepy with women and young girls. So Trump has, that in common with Jeffrey Epstein. And so there's a lot of energy in the Pizzagate pedo stuff in the right wing. The right wing was expecting Trump to put all these pedos in jail. And they excused Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but now it's right in their fucking stupid ass faces. If you're a right wing fucking dope, it's right in your fucking face. And you won't fucking see it. And then martial law. Posse Comitatus, Jesse Walters, and Charlie Kirk were calling for this as well. These people, they're all calling for this. These are right-wing fucks who are calling for something that patriots and, Constitution upholders, the Oath Keepers, these guys, all these people are supposed to think Trump was their guy. It's the worst thing. Martial law, I've said this for years, we'll notice when martial law is coming in. It's going to come in. I'm surprised they waited this long. I thought they were going to do it under Trump's first term. Trump talked about it in a way that we should put troops on the streets. But it's, when that means that everything's fucked and it's broken. And they're pushing for martial law. And the Democrats have always wanted it. They won't come out and say it. And that's grabbing your guns and, having troops on the street. And that's just checking your papers in America. Like all these freedoms that the right-wing people claim to love are being taken away. Your your Miranda rights and your rights to, judicial, hearing and things like this, right to due process. That's all a part of that. That goes and you're fucked. This is founding father shit. And Trump is against it, right? Trump is big government. He wants to expand the government. He wants to minimize state-level governments. And he wants to get rid of people's freedom of speech. You can't criticize Israel now and not lose federal funding and everything else. And so his back for Israel. Nobody has backed Israel like Trump is. He's completely owned. These are all right-wing truther no-nos, and Trump has done all these things. People in the right wing, people in the truth community have long hated and, are very suspicious of Israel's relationship with America. And Trump has all these things, right? And I'm forgetting some. He's the devil that you always feared, and now he's supported by you dumb motherfuckers, right? You dumbasses. The Trumpers, you dumb fucks. And if you're a dumb fuck listening to this, you should be grateful I'm telling you the fucking truth that you won't see. You've been deluded. You're in a fucking cult. Just because of your own desperation or whatever the fuck, you can't handle the fact that our country's going to collapse and you've made some false savior a hero. And he's not a godly person. Trump claims to. He can't even quote the Bible. He's never read it. He's dyslexic. Trump and I are both dyslexic. There are things I have in common with Trump. That's why I thought he was funny. I liked him during his first term. I understand him on a different level because we share some of the, dyslexia, some of the things like that. But Trump doesn't read, which I do. Like, I had a high reading level when I was a kid, but, as a dyslexic, I read differently. And, dyslexics see the whole and not the parts, and there's an advantage there. People think it's a learning disability, but there's all these people who are famous people. I think Bill Gates is dyslexic, and all these other people. There's lots of them. And, different way of seeing the world. But anyways, Trump doesn't read the Bible. He doesn't fucking worship God. He doesn't have a godly relationship. And so when they push this guy, when a guy pretending to be a godly person in Charlie Kirk pushes Trump, and the youth buys into it, and then Trump fucks him. This is, a catastrophe. So let's get into this first video clip here. Okay, so I just ate breakfast. I want to show you another photo, but I want to start here with this. So this is our broody hen, right? And I'll be doing an update on this at some point when I get the time. People don't care about this, but this is what I care about, right? Like, for years and years, I raised chickens by having the mom do it. A broody hen who would raise their chickens. And I always wanted my wife, who loves chickens, and she's been the chicken person in my second farm. This is like my fourth homestead or fourth homestead. But, she had raised chickens on her own, and she, had raised the chicks. And I always wanted her to see this because I knew she really adores cute things and whatever it is, right? But there's this thing where the chicks are inside their mom's feathers, and they poke their little heads out. And, this is like something that I feel, whatever it is, I have feelings about, right? It's the neat thing. And, just watching the mom raise her chicks, and it's a testament to motherhood and, all these things. She just knows what to do, all the things, teaching them how. I got all these video clips of this. This is something that doing the farming and, doing my spiritual practice and, those things that are real things to me, things that are important, things that I can do to make the world a better place, whatever it might be. And this other stuff means nothing to me. Like, literally, I don't care what happens. Eventually, the system will collapse, and that'll suck, but, that'll be whatever it is. Just to get some perspective here. So I went to eat breakfast, and there was this guy, Smear Kanish, who was probably the best person on CNN. He does a Saturday morning show, so it's a little less, it's still CNN, but, And he's talking about the right with their demonizing the liberals over this Charlie Kirk thing. And he has this political violence here. And, most of these things are fake, right? January 6th thing, they're staged, they're whatever they are. But, there's stuff the left and the right. Of course, the left was saying this for every school shooting, right? Every, thing that happened that the right was, and truthers. They're blaming people like Alex Jones, whatever, who's not a real truther. But, this is where you can't see what you're doing, and you're doing the exact same thing as the other side. And you both want to be victims, right? Because there's a victim consciousness that's created. In this case, they're using the word martyr, which has a very specific religious connotation. But when this thing happens, the victim gets to be self-righteous and demand something from the victimizers, either the Democrats or the Republicans, the left or the right. And there's indignant, self-righteousness. The riots, right? We had all the Antifa riots where they were all, the George Floyd stuff. And then, the Black Lives Matter. And then when Trump and his people did January 6th, they thought they were, just doing what the left was doing. And then it wasn't taken that way. And they went to jail. And it was a whole fucked up thing, right? And they were like, well, we saw you guys doing it, right? So this is where they've gotten you, where there's victim consciousness, which is always a bad thing. It's based in lies, right? It's based in bullshit, right? So, let me read the victim statement here. So I got to pull this up here. I have it in one of my main files. Here it is here. The victim stance is a powerful one. The victim is always morally right, neither responsible nor accountable, and forever entitled to sympathy. See, victims and abusers go hand in hand. In every victim, there's an abuser. In every abuser, there's a victim. Almost every crime there is a victim statement, a justification for why someone gets to do something wrong. Some self-righteousness, they've been victimized. It's, part of the centerpiece of the assault cycle of sex offenders who commit sexual offenses. Someone's been victimized, someone's been, hurt in some way, and they take a victim stance, and then they're able to justify, give themselves permission to do something they otherwise know us wrong. When you talk to these people, they're always, people who do bad shit, and everybody does bad shit based in victim consciousness. And they'll make an excuse for why they're doing what they're doing, and it always comes back to them being victimized in some way. And so when there's a big event like this, and there's victim stance to mind, victim consciousness to mind, they use it. It creates a capital, right? It creates a, we get to do this. It was behind 9/11, right? 9/11. America had been victimized. We all had, by the towers coming down. We need to get some fucking payback. And so all the millions of people that have died since 9/11 because of that event, which was, not what they say it is, right? So, they want to create victim consciousness, and it's to motivate you. And usually when there's a victim consciousness moment, you're going to lose something. Like you might think, you might think you're angry and you're full of hate, and you are, maybe, whatever, and that you want some payback. But that payback is going to come back around and fuck the American people over. You're going to lose more freedoms, right? Every time there's a victim statement, 9/11, think about all the freedoms you lost from that. The shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, think about all the freedoms you lost from that. Now, your life got worse. Every time something like this happens, they try to take something from you. Your guns, your freedom of speech, let's deplatform them, right? We got, this was what the liberals did. They had to deplatform Trump from his hateful rhetoric because of what happened with January 6th. And now Trump's deplatforming the Democrats, but it's always going to hurt everybody. These things are going to, you lose your rights. He's got troops on the motherfucking streets, right? Apparently Memphis is pushing back. Some of these southern cities aren't fucking wanting that shit, right? Whatever. But, this is what they're trying to take stuff from you. And that's the goal. Like, if you start off as a truther knowing that they're going to tell you your lifestyle's out of stock, if you have that understanding that there's going to be Agenda 31 housing and, they're going to put you in these 15-minute cities. If you understand that blueprint, that your lifestyle is, they're going to, want to take away your lifestyle because they can't afford it anymore. You can't, it's not sustainable. It isn't like they even want to do it. They have to. And if you understand that, then you understand all this other shit is to take things away from you, right? To give you a worse deal than you have now. And they want you to blame Trump or the left or the right or whatever the fuck they do. The bottom line is they are moving you like Judas goats into the slaughter. And there's going to be depopulation like they did with COVID, right? Was COVID good for people? Did COVID work out for people in terms of the choices that you were forced to make? Did everyone really want to wear a mask or get the vax or not go into, shut down their business? So you think about all the negative effects of COVID. And there's a lot of victim consciousness around that, and they still haven't found out the cause. There isn't, a historical cause. If you ask ChatGPT, they'll say, well, it kind of looks like a lab leak. But still, people are still talking about fucking pangolin and bats and shit like that. So anyways, victim stance. All right, let's get into the Charlie Kirk thing.
The world is waking up to the power of gold. National banks are racing to secure it. In 2024 alone, central banks added over 1,000 tons, the third straight year of net gold buying. Why? Because gold is real money. Unlike paper currency, gold's value doesn't disappear with inflation, reckless spending, and market crashes.
Okay, so he's Alex Jones here. This is how Alex Jones made his money, by hawking gold. Alex Jones was against cryptocurrency because he was, owned by, partially by, he was, his funding this thing through his pushing gold, right? And buying gold isn't a bad thing. Gold prices have gone up, and there's reasons for it. But, Charlie Kirk has created currency. He's used, and we'll show you this when he goes to these college campuses and he gets young dopes who, don't know any better. He's a grown man, and he's, goes to these places, and he's created he's created his own capital and currency, and he's utilized that to make himself bank, $12 million net worth through this process, right? And let's move forward here.
Gold makes it easy to add gold to your portfolio. Right now, when you make a qualified investment, you'll get a free 10-ounce gold coin. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. The world is turning to gold. Shouldn't you be looking into doing that too? Hello.
So, here it is, right? So he's got all these college kids. He's a grown man. He's got some skills. He's got, he's good at this, right? He generates these crowds. He's good at bringing these kids in. And these kids are lost because they're fucking lost. They have shitty families. They're growing up on the internet. They don't, have a relationship with God. They didn't get the religious training that most of us got when we were young. They have no moral compass. They just lost. And he's going there and he's giving them something that they haven't gotten. And they're all looking for it, right? Young people are looking for a mentor, a guru, right? This is, I know more about fake gurus than all these people. The land of fake gurus in India, and I understand this stuff. I saw what happened with this guy, Daji, in my spiritual practice. And, this capital, this trust was built up by the three good masters of the Sajmark system, the good gurus, the first three masters. And Daji turned it into something. You build up some capital, some goodwill, some equity, right? And he's got equity with these kids, and then he turns it into, whatever shit he's merching out in his fucking gold things and his financial schemes, right? And so he's using God and Scripture, and these kids' desperate need for something real. It's a sad thing, right, that these kids they're in this situation.
You brought a sign up.
I'm sorry?
Did you bring a sign up?
Yeah, I did, but... So my name is Eric.
So this video's been recommended to me twice. I'm not sure how many views this has, but the second video by somebody else who took this video and said, liberal turns violent as Charlie Kirk schools them. And so this seems to be one of the things that they're pushing out there. Now, I don't know if these people are staged or not, right? So these are all young college kids, and they have what it looks like MAGA. They have some MAGA hats there. Make America Great Again, right? These are, college kids who are won over to Trump, and Charlie Kirk's a big part of that. Like, he was the guy that delivered the youth, which delivered the election to Trump. And I don't know if this guy's a paid shill, like he could be, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna interpret it like that, but that, is highly possible and even maybe likely.
Years old. I've been a born-again evangelical Christian for 35 plus years.
Praise God.
Praise God. Every time someone says he's a Christian, I've seen a couple of videos. And when they say I'm a Christian, he says, praise God. Then he yawns.
Worship here in the valley with a bunch of...
But, so this guy's claiming to be an evangelical Christian. But he's a liberal, and he's going to challenge Charlie to fisticuffs, right? And Charlie, all of a sudden, doesn't praise God. It doesn't look at him as, so this guy claims to be what Charlie is, right? Like, that he's a godly man.
I was on worship teams in the valley for quite a few churches. But the Holy Spirit brought me here today to prove you wrong. Okay, and so what the Holy
He's an asshole, right?
Spirit has led me to do is to try to explain to you that I don't think you're a good, godly man. Okay?
Oh, look at the audience, right? These fucking stupid-ass sheeple, like, no, he is. He is a good, godly man, right? It's kind of funny. This is I actually enjoyed this video.
Okay, wait. And this is why. Because what a godly man does, a good godly man does, is stand up for people. He stands up for people. He stands up and even fights for people. Okay? And I don't believe you stand up and fight for people. Yeah, you use your mouth and all these kids, you're good at all these kids.
See, so he's good at all these kids. Now, this guy's trying to articulate what I can more easily articulate, but this guy, this guy's probably a volunteer. So this is in Idaho, where I lived, and there's some weird shit that goes on in Idaho, right? But he's got all these college kids there, and they have "Make America Great Again" hats and 47s, and these are all Republican. It's a Republican state. And he's at some college here, and he's got a big crowd. And Charlie is in the holding court seat, right? Like, you might as well just be a throne. And these people come up and present themselves in front of the great guru of Charlie Kirk. And he's, in a power position. He's got the crowd behind him. He's got knowledge and skills and a level of life experience that the majority of his audience doesn't have. And then he gets some crazy fuck. Like, if you're going to show up here and try to debate him, he's going to win. Like, he's going to win almost all the time. Unless you're just some really skilled debater. So he's good at this, right? He's got a fucking, he's got a skill. Like Trump has a skill. But that skill doesn't translate to being a good person. It's a person who's created this capital, this equity with these kids here. And he's like, using it to make bank. And in this case, he's going to fucking own this old piece of shit who's kind of crazy because he's coming up here and trying to, with everything against him, is trying to tell Charlie's a piece of shit because he's a conservative. So my wife and I just went for a walk, and she reminded me that she sent me this thing yesterday I wanted to cover. In the beginning of this video, the economy just lost nearly 1 million jobs. On paper, nearly a million jobs just vanished. Employers added nearly 1 million fewer jobs than believed, data shows. U.S. economy is worse than people thought, with 1.2 million fewer jobs. What that means for the Fed. So this is 3 days ago. This happened the day that Charlie Kirk is, this thing happened to him. And so what happened was they always correct these jobs reports. Remember, Trump was talking about that. And Trump just got a really bad job report recently. And then, he fired that woman, and then they come back and they said, well, people underreported, and this is the data we didn't have yet, these things. But between 2024 and 2025, up to this period of time, there was 1 million less jobs. And so it's from 2024 and early 2025. And so, and now with AI, they don't want you to know that the economy is crumbling. And a bad jobs report is, horrible for the economy. And so luckily for them, there's some bigger stories going on. Epstein, Israel, and now Charlie Kirk is the big one. And so this jobs report thing is going to go unnoticed. And if most people don't know about it, then it didn't happen. And, whatever. But this is going to continue. Because I know people are losing jobs to AI already. This is starting to happen. And then there's other factors, and it's going to snowball. So let's get back to the Charlie Kirk thing. But I think this is an important, Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Plus, it's America's collapsing. Nobody can do shit about it type thing, right?
And I didn't think you were going to.
Are they people?
Yeah, they're people.
Do I fight for them?
See, he's a punk, right? He was a punk. Like he has a punky attitude, which is fine. I don't mind this. But it's the God part, right? It's this and it's the Trump part. Like he's wrong, right? He's wrong about, this the right wing shit, right? It's the backing of Trump and then backing of martial law. Using this capital, this currency he's developed with these young people, and spending it on his own merch shit, his own, monetization of his shit, business stuff, and on Trump and on Trump's agenda.
And how dare you say that after I just shared the gospel to nearly 2,000 people here at Boise State University?
So he says, how dare you, a couple times. And, I always have a thing here. I'll do it on the next how dare you. Hopefully I'll remember because I have my memes, my Greta memes. The how dare you. Like, just shame on you. Like that's, in a time that we live in, and people say that kind of shit to me, and they will over these videos. How dare you, shame on you. Fuck you guys, right? Just, like, who are you to shame somebody else, right? Who are you to how dare you? How dare you? How double dog, double Dutch dare you? How dare you, sir? How dare you? Like, it just sucks. It just, emotional blackmail, victim consciousness. How dare you? Okay, so and then the other part is he just shared the gospel. Now, this is what I know more about all these things. There are people who are really good at reciting scripture, and they're really good at talking about God's, godly things, God knowledge. There's the knowledge part. And you can be religious scholar and understand, in this case, the Bible or any, the Bible's not that great a book; it's remedial. But you can do discourse, and you can, preach about things, and you can even have godly energy while you're doing it, because God will come to you even if you're a piece of shit if you're talking about godly stuff. And so, and I don't know how much, he has. I mean, I haven't seen his godly things. I don't know how much energy is there. But God, God is always looking for a reason to be there. Like God's love is just there. And so when you're talking about God, sometimes God will show up. I mean, all the time, in, the right way. It's one way or another. And you can experience God a little bit. But that doesn't mean this guy is a good guy. It doesn't mean that he's doing it in his own life. And that's why people fall for preachers. Because then all the people out there who are, do have God, a connection to God and their soul inside them, they start exuding God energy. And so when you get a good crowd and you get a fake guru who talks about God, there'll be God there. Like God will come in, in a lesser to perceive form, in terms of God's there, but there's a lot of other shit there at the same time. There's a lot of useful emotion, a lot of self-righteousness, a lot of right-wing bullshit, but God's there. And people mistake this, when we had these spiritual gatherings at the ashram in Molina, Georgia, the love energy, the God energy was like crazy. I mean, it was, you like step into heaven. It's like being in heaven, and you just, it's amazing. And people would make bad decisions based in that, because they weren't necessarily bad decisions, but their heart would be so full with love. They want to move down there, or they would get married. They would, they'd meet somebody and they'd feel so much love energy. And then they would leave, and there wasn't the benefit of the ashram and the gathering and the master of the system. And the energy wasn't there. And then they're like, oh, fuck, did I just make a bad, did I just, move to some place I wasn't supposed to move to, or did I? In fact, Master Chargy would say, if you can find a job here, you can move down here, but don't move down here if you don't have a job. Because, and nobody could find a job, even though it was Atlanta. And so, people wanted to move down there, but every time you went to the ashram, you'd want to be around there. But it wasn't the same because of the gathering that was there, and the energy was there. And so, you make maybe not the best decisions. I mean, that contributed to my marriage, too. My first marriage was the energy that was there in terms of the Sajmark system. And so, you often think people are better than they are because you're feeling that love energy. When you feel like God's love, you're saturated with God's love. Even if you feel it a little bit, it feels so much better than how you feel normally that your heart starts to open up, and then you see people in a different way. People do that with me here because they feel the transmission, the energy of my videos. And then there's, and I'm telling them, I'm just, I'm good at talking about this stuff. I have knowledge about it. And I'm good at being a conduit for this energy. And it stops there. I have no interest in being your guru or your teacher or these things. Like, don't put things on me because you need them. And you're imagining I'm something that I'm not, right? Like, I'm telling you who I am, and you still won't listen. Like, like people would call me master at a comment. I'm like, what the fuck you doing, right? I mean, I don't want you as a disciple. Like, this is, you're just like you're trying to have a relationship that isn't there. Both people have to be consent to the relationship, right? If I'm not accepting you as a disciple, then you can't call me master, right? And not that you should, because that would be a fucking bad choice on your part. But he's able to do this, right? And he has these people. But that's why I talk about these things, about these guys who do this, these flim-flam guys. Woo!
Because there's a difference between someone who just shares the gospel and someone who's a godly man. I can explain the difference to you right now.
Okay.
See, if you're a 7-year-old dude and you're coming out to this thing, and you don't see the dynamics here, and then you're going to call someone else a non-godly man, it's a losing battle, and you're fucked yourself, right? Because it's a stupid thing to do. You're calling him a fraud.
Tell the world why I am not a godly man.
Because you only stand for people who are white,
Use
Christian,
evidence.
and male. You've got.
Where's my brother up here? Where's
got-
my man? Look at him. You got to come up here. Come up here. Come up
Bring the black guy down.
here. Come up here. Get over the gate. Come over the gate.
Look at this guy.
Look at this guy here. Look at this. Yeah. Right up to the mic.
Okay, they stopped him. Look, he came in with a lot of energy, right? And then the security guy's going to stop him. Look, boom. He's got 47, right? Yeah, we got a black guy in there.
Right up to the mic.
You stand for me, we good.
Wait, I only stand up for white. What, is that a white man? Can you look at him, please? Look at him.
I already.
Is that a
I already
white
gave him
man?
A fist bump.
Is
I
that
gave
a
him a
white
fist bump. I gave him a fist bump.
man? You said I only stand up for white men. He's got dreads.
Are you? They look nice too. They do look nice.
But you
Okay.
just libeled me in front of 2,000 people saying I only stand up for white men, and I got a brother in Christ right here. How dare you say something like that?
How dare you? How dare you? Like, again, the how dare you. The shaming the guy, right? You know, just kick the guy out. Like, you know, like this is, but he knows he has something here. Let me put the how dare you meme on here.
How dare you?
Breaking out.
How
You're
dare
breaking out.
you?
It's
How
all right.
dare
Settle
you?
down.
Anything you
dare
want that,
you?
but the bottom line
How
is very
dare
clear.
you?
When you
How
cross
absolutely
the border
dare you, sir?
illegally, you
How
have
dare
given
you?
up the
How dare you be so flippant, man?
Well, we say, how dare they?
You know, we're all pieces of shit. We're all part of the problem. We're all, you know, making the world worse. You know, we're all part of this beastly system. And so, you know, this how dare you, this sanctimonious shit. Like I have an aversion to it. This video got 1.3 million views. Most of the videos get 30, 40,000. I don't know if he's on another platform. He has 4.3 million subscribers, but not that many views. And so I don't know if his subscribers were bought. But he does draw a crowd here, so I don't know. But this video is one of the videos that popped. And then somebody else posted the exact same video under a different title, which I saw, and that had 800,000. So this is, you know, one of the things, this is like a, you know, one of those, whatever they call those ships, the display ship, whatever it is. I'll probably remember it in a bit. Don't tell me, whatever, what's I say? Don't tell me, I don't care, I don't need to know. Is that what it is? Don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. But, you know, flagship. So this is like one of his flagship videos. You know, and it's just gross, right? The crowd, the dummies behind him, you know, rolling out the black dude. You know, like...
Ready to? If you quit messing around, I'll prove it to you right now.
Messing around, bringing up a person of color's messing around.
Yeah,
Isn't that your whole
Like,
shit?
that's just, it's just condescending and shitty, right? Like, this is why he's not a man of God. Because, you know, he's pretending to be something he's not, right? Like, you know, he's an asshole, which I appreciate. Like, you know, I mock people all the time, right? But I acknowledge that it's, you know, it's a lower behavior. It's something necessary for me to do. But he's doing this because it'll bring in views and it'll bring in whatever.
Are you ready?
But remember, he said, praise God, when this guy said he was a Christian. But he's not saying praise God now, right? Because this guy also thinks he's a Christian. They're both saying that they're Christians. Where's the Christianity? Where's the Christ? You see Christ, you feel Christ's love, you feel Christ in this interaction. There's a couple of fucking egos, right? This fucking mentally ill hat dude and this obnoxious fuck here.
Okay.
Are you ready?
So, yeah, I'm ready. So the Holy Spirit specifically brought me here. Because this is the Idaho, this is the Old West, right? The Holy Spirit brought me here to challenge you to a gentleman's fist fight right here in front of this whole...
That was a great reaction from him there.
crowd. Now look, listen.
No.
Wait.
I would hate to hospitalize you in front of 2,000 people.
Woo! Like, why do you have to even say that? Like, you know, you would say that that's not appropriate because it isn't. Like this old guy beating him up, which he couldn't. I mean, you know, this is not a fist fight. Doesn't prove who's the more godly person. Like, it's really stupid. But he's had to like say he's going to kick his ass, right? Woo!
But see, the difference is, I'm a 70-year-old man. I haven't been in a fight in like 60 years. However,
Does a godly man come up here and
Yeah, does a
threaten
godly
another?
man challenge another to a duel?
Does a godly
Yes.
man come up here and threaten someone?
okay, so hold
Look, he's just enjoying the shit out of this because he's got a crazy fuck, right? Now he's got a crazy fuck, and he knows he has a viral video.
on. I'm serious about this. Can I speak? All right, so look, I'm telling you, I'm not up here just fighting for me.
They're all laughing because he's an old fuck.
The Lord has come up to me to ask for fight for people that you diss all the time, like women.
The Lord brought him here to speak to you.
Women.
The Lord brought him here to speak to you. These women, some out there is outraged.
Gay people, trans people, immigrants, people of color, people of different religions,
My man.
My guy.
immigrants, refugees. So look, seriously, I'm serious. You can have your goons, they can search me. I'll sign a waiver. I'll let you take the first punch. Let's go. Put up or shut up, Charlie Kirk.
You know
Put
what?
up or shut
So,
up.
first of all, it says very clearly in the Bible that we shouldn't harm those that are worthy of protection, and you obviously are.
You're just
well,
worried I'll kick your
on Medicare age. But let's
He brought the Bible into it.
play this out. Despite the obvious fact, and you and I both know who would win this duel. However,
Well, then put
you
up or
are. Hold
shut
on a
up.
second. This is a great embodiment of the American left. You can't debate, so you want to go to blows. You can't. The only thing that is preventing us from this country from going to civil war is debate and dialogue, and you don't even want to have debate.
You
You
don't
want to go.
debate.
It's not. Nothing's preventing America from going to civil war, other than you have a dumbed down, pacified people who are addicted to video games and the internet, and have food, are well fed, and have the ability for transportation and gas and electricity. You take away those things, and then you have civil war. And so, it's not debate that's stopping it. This is this whole thing. Like, they say that he has dialogue with the left. But in the dialogue, he always destroys the left. Like, all of his videos say Charlie Kirk destroys this person, makes puts down a Karen, a liberal, whatever it is, right? Like how he dominates, like he is here, like he's in a, he's holding court. He's in the power position. You might as well put him on a throne, where he's the knower, he's the guy, and they all have to come up in front of him with a microphone, and he's got the crowd behind him, and he's got a lot of energy there, and a bunch of dopey kids that don't know any better, that are they're college kids, but we all know these motherfuckers. They don't know shit about what's going on. And so, and they're looking for something. They have shitty families. They have, they don't, or whatever. They might be Republican families, but they're young dopes who are looking for something's missing in their life. And Charlie Kirk pretends to have it, right? And if you have a little spiritual knowledge, like I said, people will see more in you than they should, because, that's why all these fake gurus all do their thing. And if you monetize it and you use that capital and the desperation of these people, Trump, there's a lot of desperate people out there. Desperate people want Trump gone on the left. Desperate people that want, a savior, and you see Trump as that. And, everyone knows the system's collapsing. And so it isn't discourse and debate because he's not having a good debate where he sees the debate where him and the right is always right. It's debate where he always fucking wins, right? He's the Harlem Globetrotters, and they're the Washington Generals, or Senators, or whatever the fuck they're called, the team that always loses to the Globetrotters.
And you want to wrestle like a 7-year-old.
You don't
Who
do-
here is actually
no,
dividing the
7-year-old,
country?
A
So
gentleman's fist fight. You know what that is, right?
again, I would like to think
A
that
gentleman's fist fight.
we are elevated above trying to go have a fight in the streets or a fight in front of 2,000 people. In fact,
That's correct.
a mark of civilization is that we don't have to go to blows or bullets, that we can have discourse and debate, but yet you're inviting.
So it's the guy who wants to have the Palestinian people ethnic cleanse from Israel, and he wants to force those people onto these other countries, neighboring countries, that they should just take in all the Palestinian people, and Israel gets Gaza after they've killed all those babies there, right? Because in the Bible it says, in the Old Testament, that you have to honor Israel, just like Ted Cruz, the most unliked guy in the history of the Senate, said, right? And so, like, this guy's a piece of shit. And he's using truther knowledge and religious knowledge and the dopery, the dopiness of the college-age kids and his, the people he goes to convince them that Trump is the savior and the answer. And he's clearly not. And, if anybody killed him, it was Trump. Right now, Trump, with his fucking jobs report and his Epstein problem, is now on the offensive. And he's going everywhere and using the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk and the evil liberals who killed him. This narrative to, Trump wins this thing, right? Trump is winning the Charlie Kirk martyrdom.
That.
And that out here in the West, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, really? You don't debate out in the
Real
West?
men stand up for what they believe.
You guys don't dialogue in the West?
Come on, man. Look, I know.
How about
Come on, man.
Why don't you, since you're a 70-year-old aged elder and you want to have a fist fight with a 31-year-old?
Is that how old you are?
Why don't you tell me what a woman is?
See, I am not here to debate you.
Oh,
I'm here to prove you wrong. Prove you wrong. Prove him wrong. So either put up or shut up. I'll walk away. You tell me right now.
I will say this. I will say this. I'm not going to fight you because I don't have to. Because you know why?
You don't have to.
You are acting as if someone who is very desperate, who is clout chasing, and we won an election. We are going to remain peaceful while the left promotes violence. We are going to be the peace because, as Christ our Lord said, blessed are the peacemakers, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Okay, so Trump is not a peacemaker, right? And the big thing he's done is endorse Trump. Everyone knows Trump's not a peacemaker, right? And this guy is promoted, the ethnic cleansing and the genocide that's going on in Israel, and then all these other things, right? Martial law, which I covered in my last video. All the things that truthers are supposed to be against, that right-wing people are supposed to be against, he's pushing. Because he's a shill for this, right? He's a shill for the controllers. Whether he knows this or not. And he's brings some fucking, he's got these dopes in here, right? These college-age dopes, and he's got this clown. It's a clown show.
Thank you, sir, and get out of here.
Go pray on it, buddy.
You're a coward.
Go pray on it.
Dude.
You're a coward, dude.
Anytime.
Oh, man, I want to, but I'm not going to.
I want to. What happened to the praise the Lord, right? He said, I want to. I want to, but I'm not going to. Why would you want to? Why would you want to fight that guy? Why would you want to have physical contact with that guy? I mean, there shouldn't be any desire to fight that guy. He's saying he wants to. But when the guy said he was a Christian, he's like, praise the Lord. Praise God. So he's a fucking fraud, right? He was a fucking fraud. He was a shill for the, all the stuff that these right-wing people were supposedly against, but he's pushed it on them. And they've eaten the shit. They've eaten Trump's shit. They've eaten this guy's shit, right?
Hey, everybody, thanks so
Okay, so, and then he does a little shill in at the end of it.
much for watching. First and foremost, make sure you subscribe to our...
All this stuff, right? So, this was a very popular video, and he got a lot of love for it, and shouldn't, right? Because what he displayed here. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit tougher on me. I think this guy might actually be dead, and I think, again, I don't know what happened, because I'm just watching on TV. On, the internet. And even then, if you were there in person, they saw the ways of being deceptive. But, she could be dead, and this woman could really love him. Unfortunately for her, they rolled her out here, and I don't know if she needed it because it seems like maybe she likes the spotlight. She seems very inauthentic. If you love your spouse and your spouse dies, a loved one dies, you don't, and everyone has their way of dealing with it, but putting on a big performance is not something that you want to do. You're still in a state of shock, right? There was a preceptor in Virginia when I lived there, in Richmond, Virginia, and he had one son. And him and his wife had just lost their parents. And they, the Indians have much more, the family, it's a family is like, it's enmeshed. And him and his wife, both lost their dads, I think. And him and his wife quit doing the Sajmarg meditation because she was like mad at God, someone like that or whatever. And they were both pretty wrecked over their parents dying. And they had a son, and the kid was really smart, doing well in school. And he was there was the person, right? They were the key. He was the key person to this couple. And he went swimming with a neighbor to the ocean. They have these rip currents in Virginia, North Carolina. North Carolina has some of the worst coast, Virginia. A beach that I went to, with my kids, and I was very aware of the rip tides. And he and the neighbor went to, he brought his son, and the neighbor brought his two young twins. And the neighbor was out in the ocean with his son, and the other guy was watching the twins on the beach, the preceptor. And the ocean swallowed his kid and sucked him out to the ocean. They never saw him again. And I went to his wake, his funeral. And the guy came in, and he was like a fucking wreck. Like and everyone has he just couldn't, he was like gone. He was like drooling on himself and crying and snotting all over himself and just falling apart. And people were holding him up like he was, and I'd seen this in India. There's a different level of this kind of grieving. So people do that. But what you don't want to do is be in front of people and have to perform. This idea of like crisis actor type of things that you see that look inauthentic, right? And all the people that were in these school shootings that people called inauthentic, because they were smiling and joking at press conference, all these things. Of course, the lawsuit with Alex Jones and all those things, right? But, when somebody dies and then you come out and smart people can see that you're not, doing what would be considered real grief, right? So I guess there's a moment on the coffin. So she has, may Charlie be received into the merciful arms of Jesus, our Lord, loving Savior. And then there's the 47 hats, right? Gold 47, because she says this here.
Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well.
Oh, wait, go back a little bit farther here.
My husband loved you.
Oh, go back even farther.
You both are tremendous.
Go a little bit farther, sorry.
And his phenomenal wife, Usha. For their love and support, you guys...
sorry, here we go.
What he did. I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha. For their love and support, you guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his...
I'm biting my lips. I'm restraining myself as best I can because of the, performative, the whatever. Here we go.
Incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you. 2 days ago, my husband...
Okay. I did a voiceover last night about these. Let me just play the voiceover. Okay, so I wanted to go over the possibilities. I'm doing this the night before. I already looked at this video with Charlie Kirk's wife. I watched a little bit of it. I showed my wife some of it. And she thanks President Trump and J.D. Vance, and she says that Charlie Kirk loved President Trump, and Trump loved him. Well, he thought that Trump loved him. But, to understand this, there are 3 options, I believe, here. Number 1 option is the official story's true. That this kid who's, there's a developing story. Today's Friday, September 12th, so tomorrow I'll start working on this video. And we'll have more information about this kid and his political views and his motivation for assassinating Charlie Kirk. And so whatever they tell you, the law enforcement, FBI, and the media, there'll be a story. And if you believe that story, then you believe that story, and that's it. You're set with that explanation. But if you don't believe that story, there's a couple of possibilities, right? There's one possibility that he's still alive. This is some kind of staged event. It's completely, not legitimate. And he's still alive. Or he was assassinated by somebody else. That he was killed by somebody else. And they're covering up the story. It's done by a professional head. And this other story that they're rolling out is fictitious. The mainstream story is fictitious, right? And so the thing that I would say is most likely, it's nothing that I can prove, like with all these things, but I would say the most likely scenario is he was killed by somebody else. Now, if you're a right-wing dope and a Charlie Kirk fan, you will say that he's killed by liberals, that he was gaining momentum with his amazing, con job that he was doing out there. Building an army of college students, winning them over to the Trump way of thinking, the right-wing way of thinking. And he was gaining, power, political power, and whatever, religious power. And the left-wing people were scared of that, and so they took him out. The problem with that argument is the liberals don't do shit like that. Like, they're not, they're not in charge of the FBI and the CIA and these other agencies right now. Trump is completely in charge of them and his people. And, the wrath of the right-wing people is upon the Charlie Kirk fans and Trump's, martial law bullshit that he's going. This actually hurts the left wing. Charlie Kirk being assassinated doesn't help the left wing, doesn't help the liberals. It gives rage and momentum to the right wing. And the left wing was just making great headway. There's another video clip out there. I don't know if I have it today. I think I have it. About how there's just all this more Epstein stuff. And it's going ignored because of this Charlie Kirk thing. So I think we can all agree the person who's benefited most from the Charlie Kirk death is Trump. He's 100% benefited from it. Because now he has this martyr on his side. A guy that his wife claims that he loves Trump and Trump loved him. His death emboldens Trump to the point where he was stopped being in hiding from the Jeffrey Epstein bullshit stuff that's happening to him. Not that the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is bullshit, but his reaction to it or whatever. And he's going on Fox and Friends and coming out and giving speeches, and he's got this, this martyr and victim consciousness in his pocket. When every time there's something like this that happens, there's victim consciousness. Who gets to be the victim? And how do they use that victimization as some source of leverage, right? So the most likely suspect, and you could also throw Israel in there. I had all these tabs up. I was going to cover the bombing of Israel and is it not Yemen? Where was it? Qatar, right? The place had given Trump a $400 million luxury jet for his private collection. Remember those guys? And that's become a null and void topic. Like I X'd out all those tabs. I never fully got to cover that because this Charlie Kirk thing is sucking up all the oxygen. And so it empowers, like when somebody gets shot, who does it empower? It doesn't empower the left. It doesn't empower the gun grabbers. It doesn't empower any of these people. It empowers Trump. Trump has the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, this modern day, bullshit saint type of person, the religious guy who's martyred, and Trump has that on his side, and all the young people, and like all the young people that were fans of Charlie Kirk and all the stuff that he had done, his millions of followers, all this stuff, and Trump is able to get get out of jail free card from the Epstein thing for some period of time, at least from his steadfast supporters who are now grieving Charlie Kirk and distracted. So they couldn't shake this Epstein thing. Trump kept on telling his fucking dopes, there's nothing to see here. This is a Democratic hoax and all the things he was saying. And they couldn't shake it. No matter what happened, they couldn't shake it. This is, sometimes you need like a war. You need something, they wagging the dog. Remember that movie Wag the Dog? And Clinton did that when he had that little bullshit war in Bosnia that really didn't go anywhere, but it was enough to distract people from his scandal, right? So, sometimes you need something bigger to get people off of something. And Trump's trying to shake this fucking Epstein thing off him. It's like napalm, this chemical he used to spray on people, these napalm bombs that were fire bombs, and people would get covered and they get burned alive from this incendiary device, right? And so it stuck to you like napalm, right? You couldn't get it off. You couldn't wash it off. It was like a grease that was flammable. And so, this thing was sticking to Trump like that. And so it took like it's a Charlie Kirk assassination. We still don't know if it's going to hold. We still don't know if that assassination is going to hold. And we know what happened with Trump's assassination, his fake assassination attempt on him, and how he's able to use that and parlay that into a second presidency. So, I said this when Charlie Kirk, this is my third video about this. In my first video, I talked about how, you always look at who benefits. When there's a world event, when October 7th happened or 9/11 happened or COVID happens, who benefits? Like who's benefiting from this disease, from this war, from this terrorist act, from this assassination? Who's benefiting? Like who's gonna, who is this helping out? Who's the winner? Like, who's the winner of the Charlie Kirk assassination attempt? And we know who it is. It's Trump. Like, it's 100% fucking Trump. It isn't even close, as Trump would say. It isn't even fucking close. And so, why would this woman go up there and thank the person and say that he loved you when, if anybody assassinated him, it was Trump. And I'm not saying he did because I can't prove Trump did it. But if there is somebody who has motivation to do it, if there's someone winning, this kid isn't winning, right? This kid who's being blamed for his assassination attempt isn't winning. That guy's fucked, right? Whatever happens to him, his life hasn't gotten better, or whatever it is, if he's just some patsy that's, that comes in like an actor, a crisis actor, whatever, disappears, never, he disappears like Luigi Mangione or whatever. You don't even know if these guys are in prison or if there's what's going on with them. But whenever there's one of these things, it's always to mine victim consciousness, right? It's always to get some victim consciousness and then turn that into some leverage. This is how these things work. And so if you believe the official story that there was this lone gunman a disgruntled college student who has whatever kind of political views. If you're not satisfied with that, if you're you're a right-wing person, Charlie Kirk fan, you don't like that one. You don't believe in that one. And so you have to come up with a secondary explanation. And because you're a dope, you'll think it's a bunch of liberals. You'll make up some liberal hate bullshit that doesn't make sense at all. Because they're not the winners. The liberals aren't the winners of the Charlie Kirk assassination. They don't win this thing, right? I mean, if they get gun control out of it, sure. Then you could say they're the winners. But they're not going to get gun control unless Trump pushes for gun control, and then that's another Trump thing. And Trump's doing the bidding of the controllers. But, other than that, the liberals aren't going to win this thing. This does not benefit the liberals at all. Just like the fake Trump assassination attempt didn't benefit Kamala Harris, right? Did it? Like when they did a fake assassination of Trump, did it help Trump or did it help Kamala? It helped Trump. And so Trump is now president, and that was his, that was his jumping off point from his Republican National Convention where he was given the nomination, when he did that WWE bullshit thing for those really stupid motherfuckers that are his supporters. So the only logical explanation, if you don't believe in the official story, is the most reasonable explanation is that Trump and his people sacrificed this guy for, Trump and his whole movement. And if that happened, then that's fucked, because this guy is, somebody Trump seems to have a lot of affection for. Somebody who his wife said loved him, and Trump loved Charlie Kirk. And if they burned this guy, they actually killed him. So that, again, somebody who claims to be a spiritual person, a religious person. And they kill him so that Trump can avoid some Jeffrey Epstein scrutiny. That's pretty fucked. I mean, that's real fucked. And that his wife would come out here and talk about how much Trump loved him, and Trump was, again, she seems, not authentic. So anyways, I just want to say those things here tonight, and then tomorrow I'll finish this video up. Okay, continuing from where I left off, for you, it's not a big deal. Like, you have no idea what's happened on my end. I went out for, my wife and I went out for a little bit, then we came back, it was raining, and then I took a nap. And so, again, the idea of grieving, the other part of it is that, I'd go to these spiritual gatherings, and the spiritual gathering would end, and sometimes there would be some Indian guy or woman wailing, especially, in India, where they would start weeping and wailing and just carrying on. It was like a very performative, right? There's performative grief, and this woman has performative grief, right? It's just, there's something that's just, she didn't need to do this, right? If somebody dies, or if you're suffering from somebody dying, you go into a state of shock and disbelief, and it's like, fuck everybody else, right? Like, I mean, it should be a time where you could it should be about you. This should be about her. She doesn't need to make a video. She doesn't need to perform for these people. She doesn't need to, like, she's got her little girls and she's whatever, their little kid, her children, and she doesn't need to be out there. Like, it's just unnecessary. So, I didn't watch this whole thing. It's really hard for me to get through. But my wife said, seeing part of it, and she told me this happened.
To work harder and to be better. He never gave up. And I love knowing that one of his mottos was never surrender.
Well, we kind of surrender now, right? Where is he? We all surrender into death. So, I mean, never surrender is like, everybody surrenders. Like, everybody dies.
So I want to tell you that we'll never surrender. We never will. Ever.
She won't. Ever. She won't ever surrender.
Ever. Our campus tour this fall will continue.
It's very hard. So she's going to continue this campus tour.
There will be even more tours in the years to come. America Fest here in Phoenix this December will go on. it will be greater than ever. The radio and podcast show that he was so proud of.
Oh my God. She just touched his chair.
Will go on.
So, it's only 2 days. It's like barely 2 days. It's less than 3 days since, when she did this announcement, right? And you don't need to make big decisions like that. And, he was the star of the show. He had talent. He was obviously good at, he built a fan base, right? I often talk about like someone like Don Lemons, and I talk about this with Dodgy, especially Dodgy, even more so. Don Lemons is better at this than Dodgy. Dodgy is hard to listen to. The guy who does my Sajmar, he was the fourth master of the system. He's just really bad at public speaking. And the guy before him, Master Chargy, the third master, was amazing at it. Like, he was just the best public speaker. Stuff that he said, like, I got some of that. Like, I inherited some of that, which is, what I'm able to do here. And he was just really great at storytelling, and, some people are just really great at it. Rush Limbaugh was a horrible person. And, his stuff that he said was goofy. But, I was listening to him on AM radio. Like, I never had really listened to him before. And I just thought he was kind of a blowhard, which he was. He was obnoxious. And I didn't agree with anything he was saying. He was coming to the end of his, like maybe I was going through AM radio. I was like going through, I don't know what it was. Like, I just happened to hear him. And I didn't even know what it was at first. And he was talking about, he said, there's something that always determines elections. And he built it up and he said, I'll give you the answer on the other side of the break. And this idea of holding a person in, I wanted to hear it. Like, like I knew he was full of shit. And the answer was being conservative. A conservative, platform always wins. This is years and years ago. Like, this is probably around George W. Bush times. But, it was a goofy answer, but the way that he did it, the way he held his audience. And so you can see people with skill. Barack Obama, someone who was, Bill Clinton, like, they're goofy, but they were good public speakers. And, there's people that have won their own audience, who have created content and won people over. It's something that I used to say how Don Lemons, he got a job on CNN and became famous. And these people that, are famous, Will Smith and some of these other people. Will Smith has a new video on frolicking. I shit you not. But, they didn't win their own audience. And Charlie Kirk won his audience. Now, I don't think his wife really has it. The way that she's being here, she's very coming off. He's much more authentic than she is. And, again, this is her, like, whatever. I don't know if she was a part of it. But she's going to continue these college tours. They came to see him. It wasn't about, like, his family. It's just like she inherited his abilities here. And this video has 3.5 million views. And it's probably going up. So this is going to viral, this video of her. And, she's being so inauthentic. But I'm sure to his audience, to his people who like him, the people who like the fake Christian Barbie truther, Caroline Levitt, they're going to like this woman. Not that she looks like her, but she comes across as that, sort of, you would see that conservative sorority girl that would be a villain in a, like some comedy. She'd be Christian, but not really Christian, not really nice. She's got a hardness in her. And, why is she touring? Like, you don't need to make that decision. You don't have to do the tour. You're not surrendering by not doing the tour unless you really want to. Like, unless you want to, continue this stuff and, like, carry on this martyrdom. And then this thing becomes like, is this actually just some kind of, crisis actor kind of thing where she's just, like, this is like some kind of stage thing? Like, because she's going to carry this, because we're going to get to the martyrdom thing here in a second.
And in a world filled with chaos, doubt, and uncertainty, my husband's voice will remain. And it will ring out louder and more clearly than ever.
Well, not really, because unless you just play clips of him, you guys are going to have to produce more content. Like, who's going to go in there and debate the people and do what he did, like his show?
His wisdom will endure. My favorite too, but my husband's favorite word in the English language was earn. He would call all of you to be people of action who earn the future America deserves.
Yeah, well, it's going to be that's coming. It's coming, pumpkin. We're all going to get the future America deserves. We're all earning it. You're right about that. I agree with that, but not what you're saying it's going to be.
So to all of the young people who felt inspired by my husband's faith and hard work, all of you already know what Charlie would want you to do.
Yes, you do. You do. You guys know that.
You know.
You know.
If you're in high school or if you're in college, go.
Okay, so I think I gotta find this last thing before I. I mean, it's just so inauthentic. She's not coming across as authentic. She should be in a state of shock, grieving, whatever. There's a video of her hands on the coffin. We'll show you that. And it's just so fucking inauthentic. And then, again, she doesn't need to make a decision about touring. None of those things are important, right? I mean, it isn't her tour. It isn't anybody else's tour but her husband's. Her husband was the star of the show. I don't see anybody else sitting there with him. I don't see any, it was about him and his abilities and his whatever it might be. And I don't know what she thinks is going to happen or how she's going to carry on. She's obviously not shy in front of a camera, and she's seizing her moment. I mean, she's like, if she becomes bigger than he was, and she's able to talk about him and use him as an example, and just, all these things, and, push this martyrdom thing, like some sort of Mary Magdalene, whatever it is, carry on the message here, then she's a big winner too. I mean, like she comes out as, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, like, if she really enjoys being in the spotlight and she enjoys this moment here, which it appears that maybe she is, and she wants to be on tour, and she's going to go out and speak to these kids, and she is now, she didn't earn her spot. She didn't win her own audience, but she can, she can move, move this thing forward based on something that he built, right? Whenever there was these things that would happen, these school shootings and things, and whenever there's something didn't look real, it looked kind of staged, and the people come out and they look like crisis actors, all these things. I felt very uncomfortable covering it because, if somebody's grieving, they're grieving. And so it's a little difficult here because she's being very inauthentic, and it's hard for me to, this seems very performative. I think most people are going to see this other than his fans. So it's just, I don't really want to, this is, if I didn't see this, I would have probably avoided it. But I want to talk about this. This is why I'm covering it, because this martyr thing that Trump said.
Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith. And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. The way she goes into this whispering thing, it's just very performative, right? It's not like just someone authentically emoting, but, it's...
Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side.
If you're gonna laugh at Hilaria Baldwin, right, in her fake Hilaria Baldwin's performance, Hilaria Baldwin, this is kind of a, the fake Christian Barbie truther. It's the performative aspect of this. It does not seem sincere or genuine, right? And it seems, and it's unnecessary. I mean, she doesn't need to do this, right?
wearing the glorious crown of a martyr.
Oh, go back here. That's what I was saying here.
To be remembered for his courage and for his faith. And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr.
The way she said that, of the martyr. Now, she's making this sound like, there was the Jesus Christ being crucified. And then all the other saints, including St. Paul, who wasn't even one of his religious disciples. If you read how they were killed, like they were inventing new and horrible ways of killing these guys, these disciples. I mean, the crucifixion, brutal, right? And just, who would imagine such a thing? And making the guy lug his cross across the town square and get spat on, committed no crimes and whatever it is. And then you look at the Pharisees and the Romans and all these people. But, saints don't have to die that way. They've made a mistake in Christianity by making the cross, and making this thing about, this guilt and shame and, the heaviness of Catholicism that, that was passed on in a different way to the Protestant religions, about the cross and blood and, the whatever they call that, Santeria, whatever that stuff's called, and the stigmata stuff. That movie Stigmata, if you've ever seen it, a lot of blood in the Latin countries where they obsess with Christ's blood and drinking his blood and eating his flesh and, taking communion in Catholicism. It's a huge mistake. It's not what Jesus was about. But they've made that, that powerful symbol of the cross and all this stuff of being a martyr. And a martyr is not a good thing to be. And again, with the victim consciousness and things, you don't need to die in service of God. In fact, you shouldn't die in service of God. You should live a normal, natural life where you live, a long life, and then you go through the various stages. Jesus was, part of his spiritual evolution was cut short because he was killed at a young age, and, he got political. Jesus was not really 100% spiritual, but he was, some parts spiritual and a lot political. He was like a social reformer. He brought God into it, but God, it is very, he was immature. He was in his 30s, around the time this guy died. And anybody who's lived past their 30s, you're an adult when you're 30, but you're not really, especially now people are so immature. You don't get really any sort of wisdom until you're wiser in your 30s than you were in your 20s, hopefully. But it's not, you need to keep on going. And so, the martyrdom thing, this is what Trump called him as well. And Trump doesn't know shit about, religion.
Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Charlie loved life. He loved his life. He loved America. He loved nature, which...
Okay, I got to move on. But, ick. But this martyr thing, right? He didn't die the death of a martyr because, my wife just sent me something. I have to look into it, that this guy was married or living with a transgender person. The murderer was, I don't know, the assassin. Again, the whole thing now seems very, like I said, when something's natural, it happens naturally, organically, they grab hold of it. But if it wasn't natural or organic, and it seems like the timing of the thing, my first reaction was, I just completed a video on damning stuff that's coming out about Trump in association with Epstein, which there's already a lot of damning things. And it's like Trump can't pull it back. He's like, he can't change the subject. And he's done a great job of changing the subject and ordering people to forget about things and what you're concerned about that. I mean, he did it with Hillary Clinton. He campaigned on locking her up and then said to his audience, yeah, that worked well during the campaign. Now we don't care about it. And then he came out and said he fucking protected her. He used these words, right? Let me show you that clip, that meme of him saying he'd protect her.
Yeah, please. I don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about it. I think it's a tragic story.
This is about pardoning Hunter Biden.
You want to know the truth. And I felt that with Hillary Clinton, too. You know, with Hillary Clinton, I could have done things to her that would have made your head spin. I thought it was a very bad thing. Take the wife of a president of the United States and put her in jail. And then I see the way they treat me. That's the way it goes. But I was very protective of her. Nobody would understand that, but I was. I think my people understand it. They used to say, lock her up, and I'd say, just relax, please. We won the election. I think it would be I think it would have been horrible for our country and we had her between the hammering of all of the files. And don't forget, she got a subpoena from the United States Congress. And then, after getting the subpoena, she destroyed everything that she was supposed to get. I thought it was so bad to take her and put her in jail, the wife of a president of the United States, and then when it's my turn, nobody thinks that way. I thought it was a very terrible thing. And she did a lot of very bad things. I'll tell you what, she was pretty evil. But in terms of the country and in terms of unifying the country, bringing it back, to have taken her and to have put her in jail, and I think you know the things as well as I do. There were some pretty bad acts that she did. I think it would have been very bad for our country. And a lot of my people, a lot of the MAGA, as they call them, but the base. And I think the base is 75% of the country.
I mean, I forgot about that at the beginning when I said Trump is, the devil that you've always feared. The right-wing Christians, the right-wing truthers, the Republican truthers, they're not really truthers, but they think they are. And the theories that they've had about what's going to happen with the New World Order and all this stuff, Trump is bringing it in. Cryptocurrency, all these things. And Trump's pushing it. When Obama came in, he was viewed as a Muslim peacemaker, right? He was viewed as a Muslim peacemaker. And, he was the worst, hardest guy on whistleblowers. And he did more wars than any other president and won 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, which Trump keeps on crying and whining about that he won't get one. But it was all based in perception. Obama was very warlike. He droned kids. He was a horrible people. And he was very hard on the Muslims. But he talked, when he'd say, Muslim words, he would say it with a Muslim accent because he, spent time in one of those countries wherever he grew up there in that country. I forget what it is. Indonesia, wherever it was. He had some connection with that. But it was just all performative, right? But because everyone thought he was a man of peace, the liberals just didn't, they didn't block him from doing, he was scoring on his own basket. Because the liberals thought he had, I got this. Okay, we'll go to sleep now. And the Trumpers have gone, Trump campaigned on locking Hillary Clinton up, and they shouted, lock her up, and he said he would. And then she said to him in that famous debate scene, and I would have showed that, but I, don't need to. And he said, she said, it was just good that a man like Donald Trump isn't in charge. A man with the temperament of Donald Trump is in charge of our justice system. And he said, you'd be in jail. And it was Trump's big moment, second debate. It was his biggest moment in the campaign, and he, was like a great clapback. And then as soon as the election ended, he said, "No, that played well before the election." Then he came out and said what I just showed you, and his fucking people bought it. He protected Hillary Clinton, their worst enemy, and he promised all these other things about her. So it was very performative, and here.
I love you.
Why the fuck would you film this? Why the fuck would you think the need to put your hands?
Oh, I love you.
And when you see a corpse, like I said when I was a little kid, and you believe in spirituality and a soul, this happened even with Farley when we found Farley dead in the road. Farley went out for a walk with us, and she wandered off, and we found her dead in the road. And fucking nightmare, so it was a whole thing. She didn't see so well, and just bizarrely, I mean, we were, far away from the road. And I later, we hadn't completed the fencing, but, whatever. But, when you see the animal, or you see a person, and the essence is gone. The essence is spiritual. His soul is gone out of his body. And so, you would know that as a spiritual person. In India, when they burn the bodies, it's because the soul might hang around the body. Because what you're supposed to do when somebody dies is you grieve, and then you pray that they go to their higher destination. You pray that they find the highest possible destination, and you pray for, whatever they're going next, the next life or whatever. You pray for their spiritual evolution, and you let them go. Because you can keep a soul bound to earth because of your grief and your love, and you keep on pulling them back when they need to move on to their next situation. And again, that's not this time period. It's appropriate for her to grieve. But her to film this weird fucking video.
I love you.
And these weird gold, like the jewelry, right?
I know. I love you. I love you.
She seems to really want the spotlight here.
God bless you.
Oh, that's so fucking icky. That fucking, she's got bigger hands than Trump, at least. Is that God? Is that what the G on there with the diamonds? And the nails and all this stuff. Very fucking creepy. Really fucking creepy, right? Like, very icky. What the fuck, right? Okay, gonna get to Jesse Walters, which is such a greasy Fox News guy, about this. But this guy still, his title of his video, Trump's Nightmare, Epstein Revelations, and National Guard Shame, Rack MAGA.
Donald Trump's push to expand federal power and troops in the streets continues to draw protests over a creeping autocratic bent. Today, he is saying protesters may be targeting him because they're somehow on the take. And he's threatening to go after people he says would be funding protests.
They have professional agitators. They're professional.
They're paid.
I had one the other night. I went into a restaurant, and this woman stood up. I looked at her immediately. She had money. She wasn't serious. They get paid for it. They're professional.
So there's these people have fake people, crisis actors, fake people who do fake shit, like weird fucking rants about their husband and performative things. They have crisis actors, but you don't. Like, you guys are all genuine and sincere. Fuck.
Soros and other people. And
this thing with this woman, this wife. And if I get some Charlie Kirk fucks that come into my channel who can't see through his bullshit, I don't want you here anyway. Like, it's not for you. You're too far gone for me to be a part of what I'm doing here. But if you get upset about this thing, think about how you would, if you saw what you saw from her, and it was, Michelle Obama, or it was Hilaria Baldwin, or Jill Biden, and she was doing this performative stuff, you guys would be saying the exact same shit. It's just that you don't, you can't see through your own bullshit belief system.
We're going to look into Soros because I think it's a RICO case against him and other people, because this is more than like protest. This is real agitation.
There hasn't been any public reporting how far he could
I
get
want
with
to move
this.
to
So no one's ever actually tested this.
It's on them. It's horrific that they don't want President Trump's help.
I would love if we did this in every big American city.
Is it horrific?
Yeah, so martial law. I mean, you're on the wrong side of this if you think Trump's right about martial law. You want martial law, motherfuckers? You people. I mean, this is some kind of Epstein thing.
How bad it was. And then you add to that how many rich elite men, many in the sort of investigators in New York City were seen Wednesday. They met with lawyers from the estate about the book. Outlets like the New Yorker and the Atlantic have pointed out that even when you put Trump aside, if you care about victims and the law, this is even worse than people might realize. You need to understand it and see how bad it was. And then you add to that how many rich elite men, many in the sort of Wall Street corridor, including Donald Trump, appeared from the book to know exactly what Epstein was up to, or at least that he was up to some level of crime. There's a message with an Epstein acquaintance reminiscing about picking up girls on the beach, telling them with knife in hand to get naked, and then, quote, just joking. Another book page shows what appears to be a very young girl here, which is obviously redacted, but the point being what could very well be a minor and a real person, a victim. It's from a section in the book that is titled Children and contains letters and drawings that at least simulate the handwriting of children. This is now the convicted sex crimes, including Maxwell, who's still in prison, although remember, this book, these activities, the Trump administration helped her get to an easier prison. And then you have, within that context, this.
Okay, so here it is, right? Trump, this is Trump's letter. It's undeniable now because he has found something to move on with. So did they do it on purpose? Is Charlie Kirk dead, or did they kill him? Did Trump kill him? Do the powers that be that are protecting Trump? You know, they have this thing called the firm around the queen or the king. These people who are generational power brokers of the royal family. And they're handlers to the king and the now king and the former queen. And, you know, they have this with the president and Trump and these people. And, you know, Trump says, let's do some kind of distraction, whatever. We got to break this story about me and Epstein. And they sacrificed a martyr. Not sacrificed by the left, not sacrificed by the anti-Christian atheists, the devil worshippers, but by Trump. And, you know, his wife is stepping right in there to, you know, push this martyr agenda. It's completely fucked. So, again, you know, if it's just logical to think about who wins. When an event happens, who benefits from the event? They're usually the people behind the event. In this case, it should be fairly obvious that, you know, either something happened by chance to completely erase a story and save Trump from his, at least temporarily, from association with Epstein. And, you know, hopefully they'll bring the Epstein stuff back next week. But, you know, let's show you. Let's show you how Trump is winning here. Okay. They're trying to silence us is the title of this video. And, you know, maybe during the time of Joe Biden and the censorship time when Joe Biden was pushing for censorship, he threatened the social media companies. But now Trump has all the social media companies. You know, Mark Zuckerberg is licking Trump's taint, right? And asking him, how much should I say that I'm going to invest in the country? He's sitting there with Bill Gates and all these other people. They're all praising Trump for his investment technology. Morning Joe went to meet with Trump shortly after he won, after licking Joe Biden's taint for, you know, whatever. And they were ostracized for that. And then people who are commenting, Don Lemon said all these CNN and MSNBC are not the same since Trump won presidency. And they go after him all the time. And they're showing him all the time and quoting him all the time. And so they're not silencing shit, right? Like he's trying to say they killed Charlie Kirk to silence him. But his wife is going to go on this tour, and her video got, you know, twice as many views, 4 times as many views as his video where that guy challenged him to a fight, one of his big videos on his channel. And that's just after one day. It's going to go up. It's probably, you know, being posted in multiple locations. So just on YouTube alone, she's got a viral video. And she's saying she's continuing this movement, and who knows what they'll come up with. But she's going forward, and she's going to be making bank. I bet this is very profitable for her. I mean, his body was brought back by Air Force Two on the vice president's plane. You know, which is not, I mean, I'm not sure if that's even legal, but, you know. And so they're not trying to silence shit, right? They are, you know, right now, they may be in the future. Yeah, sure. In the past, yeah. Not now. They might be trying to, but they can't.
Fox News alert. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin finally in custody. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was turned into authorities late last night in Utah by his own father. Tyler's dad recognized his son as the person of interest, and when asked, he fessed up to it. Sources say Tyler actually threatened suicide, saying he'd rather kill himself, which led the dad to call up his minister, who happened to be a U.S. Marshal.
Boy, now that makes sense. That's what Trump was babbling about, which is a weird fucking story, right? That's all fucking weird, right? His dad was a...
Robinson later surrendered and was booked into jail. The jail, 250 miles from the crime scene. That's right. The guy made it all the way home. So how'd he do it? New video shows Robinson leaving his sniper's nest and jumping off the
Sniper's
roof.
nest.
After that, he dumped his gun in the woods and hopped in a gray Dodge Challenger and drove 4 hours home. The governor of...
Okay, so it's a little bit hard to believe that these guys, random people, commit these crimes. I mean, just on the, there's a lot of training that goes into someone being a successful sniper. And shooting a person, like, the first time you kill a person is going to be the hardest, right? Maybe the second time because of how hard the first time was. But, it's a barrier that all of us have to cross. And thankfully, most of us don't have to cross that barrier, right? Like, in war, it's one thing, but it's still, and murder is different than war. To crimes of passion, where people get into a fight and accidentally, lose it or whatever, something happens, somebody dies. Crimes of passion. But something as cold-blooded as assassination, where it's a cowardly act. The assassin, the assassins, it didn't exist before. There was Dharma, right? And the age of the Mahabharata brought the end of Dharma. Before that, there was rules to engagement. And people poisoning people and assassinating them, that brought on a whole new, fear that you had to have of cowardly acts. That wasn't something that was widely done. And assassinating people is so, easy now for people. And you see it in TV shows and just as sort of an accepted behavior. But when you're doing that as a 22-year-old kid, and, you're sitting there, this kid came from a religious family, second thoughts, and that's what I'm saying, like somebody who's a trained killer who kills people all the time and doesn't have a problem, they've passed that threshold. They're not going to get buck fever and, panic and cry or, these things. You ever see the movie Deliverance where a guy has a deer in his sights, they're bow hunting, and he just can't pull the trigger. He gets deer fever. But, this guy was able to go out and these guys, these murderers, these assassins, these snipers. And so if random people can get access to, and they can, sniper rifles, and they can just go up and assassinate people, then, public appearances will have to end, right? There won't be enough security. There won't, it's just, if you're in these public places, people can find a sniper spot where they go undetected and take these shots, and they're going to get caught. They know they're getting caught. There's also the fear of what's going to happen to you, right? Like, so it's hard for me to believe in the lone gunman theory. Like, it might be true. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's hard for me to believe. And so if this guy is acting on his own, then whatever, mental illnesses, whatever fucked up thing that's going on inside of him, you can't demonize all liberals and be honest about it. Because there are lots of liberals that are glad Charlie Kirk is dead, but they don't want to kill him, right? They wouldn't be able to kill him. They wouldn't be able to murder somebody else. It's very hard for people to do that. It's something inside of us that, that's why abortion is such a weird thing, because, there's something inside of us that knows something's wrong and doesn't want to go through with it. Like, there's a lot of effort has to be put into overriding that. That's why they break you down in the military, at these places where they break you down in boot camp, the Marines and stuff. That movie from Is it a Stanley Kubrick movie, that one with the Full Metal Jacket? And so whatever it is, like it's a tough thing, right? And, I had somebody who I was saying that, and I was making a case that meat eaters should all kill something and to eat it. Like they should all go through the experience instead of outsourcing the killing of food, that meat eaters should, participate in some way or another in the slaughtering of animals, because most people can't do that. Most people couldn't kill a chicken and eat it, kill a cow and eat it, right? Kill a deer. They'll order it on the menu. They'll buy it in the store, but they can't do it themselves, right? So I was just making a point like that. And some vegan who misunderstood me, because vegans are, malnourished. And he said, I hope somebody shoots you. This guy who was anti-violence against animals, and I'm an animal. I mean, humans are part of the animal kingdom. Wanted me shot, but he wouldn't do it himself. And he misunderstood what I was saying too, because again, it's dumb. But people can't do this, right? And so it's much more logical that there's a professional involved, right?
Utah Spencer Cox says the family did the right thing by turning their son in. Robinson's believed to have acted alone, but he left a hefty trail of evidence.
Yeah, he did.
Investigators found messages that he sent to his roommate.
These photos consisted of various messages stating a need
Look
to
at this fuck right here. He is one weird fuck.
retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
We now know more about the engravings on the
this is a good one.
Shell casings. Listen.
Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO.
That's the best part.
Bella Ciao is an anti-Nazi song from Italy. 3 down arrows is an anti-fascist symbol that's now associated with Antifa. And it's also a video game code for calling in a big bomb. Hey fascist, catch, well, he's calling Charlie a fascist and telling him to catch a bullet. And the bulges, OWO, is sexual role-playing slang used by furry fanatics. So who is this guy?
What about the part where he says, if you're reading this, you're gay? What about that one?
This Robinson guy. He comes from a normal household, raised Mormon, parents are Republican. His father's in construction.
Hey, let's get into the strangeness of the Mormon religion. Because, it isn't like that jives with Christianity, right?
And they live in a 6-bedroom home in Utah. He grew up hunting, which explains why he was a good shot. And academically, he was a straight-A student who got a college scholarship. But he dropped out of college after 1 semester, went back to live at home, and enrolled in a trade school, looking to become an electrician. A family member said he wasn't political until recently, when something snapped.
The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another...
She's building a case that this guy's liberal. And, my wife sent me something from some conservative person that said he was married to she's living with a transgender, I guess, male to female. Possibly, I don't know.
Family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
One of Robinson's friends spoke to The Guardian and said he was really leftist, pretty left on everything, quote unquote. They said he became an extremist, started ranting and raving. Robinson apparently spent too much time online.
He spent too much time online? Like all the other right-wing... Which kid do you not say that about, right? Like they're making it sound like this whole thing... Well, yeah, you see where he's going with this.
Too much time online. His shell casings had internet slang, and he dressed up as memes for Halloween. Robinson spent hours and hours alone staring at a screen.
Crazy. Who else does that? Like every other kid his age and younger and a little bit older. That's all they do, right?
A Christian kid in a conservative household raised by a loving mom and dad in Utah.
Wait, you're calling Mormons Christians? Are you seriously doing that, bro?
Not surrounded by radical leftists, but gets radicalized into fighting fascists online.
You got to censor those people then, right? Like Trump was censored? They got to censor all this radical liberal shit. The radical, this poor kid.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Fascism isn't just coming, it's already here.
This is what kicking the out of fascism looks like.
Boom.
Donald Trump is a fascist.
Trump is a fascist dictator.
As a fascist dictator.
Fascist chaos.
Fascist regime.
Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes.
So how did
Okay, so Donald Trump is a dictator right now. And everyone should know it, but the right-wing people are too fucking stupid that realize he's their worst nightmare. He's worse on the right. I mean, the left cares about this, but not nearly as much as the right. He's in the martial law stuff and the saving Hillary Clinton. I mean, all the shit he's done, right? But, you know, the Fox News this was something, if a Democrat was doing all the shit that Trump did, the Fox News would be losing their shit, right?
America confront fascism in World War II? We went to war. And today, Democrat senators have declared war again.
We're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do.
You know, they're not at war. They're pussies. Like these, the Democrats don't know how to fight a fucking war. Not that I feel like being a soldier or being in war makes you a man or makes you not a pussy, but the Democrats are known for this kind of thing. They don't have the stomach for the shit Republicans do. That's why Trump is rolling over them.
Whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Whatever's necessary to save the country? That's a call to arms. The left is losing the battle of ideas. Violence is a last resort. They're trying to silence us, so they can't lose the argument. They tried to
like that's just a unbelievably weak interpretation of what's happened.
Cancel us, censure us, and at the extreme level, they've tried to kill us. They killed Charlie, shot Trump.
Shot him. Are you serious? That fucking ear thing? You're calling that a shot? The ear thing where no evidence of a wound or a cut or a scar, and he like fucking dry blood, fucking fake ketchup, fake blood ketchup coming out of his whatever it was, or like when you say that about Megyn Kelly, blood coming out of her eyes or her I don't know what that thing, right?
Scalise. They almost shot Kavanaugh. Assassinated a healthcare CEO, cracked Rand Paul's rib.
Okay. Calling Luigi Mangione doing that to a healthcare CEO. I mean, does his viewers like the healthcare system? Like calling that guy? Come on.
And firebomb Teslas and are attacking ICE facilities. And now they're trying to wash the blood off their hands.
Boy, this guy's a piece of shit. All right. Pontius Pilate. So he's pushing this rhetoric. All right, let me find out what they know about this guy now. We'll see if there's any update, if he has a manifesto yet. Then I'm going to get this video up. I'll edit it real quickly and get it up. And it's right now it's around 3 o'clock or so. Okay, so there's no manifesto. The Trump guy didn't have a manifesto either, I don't think. There might have been something there. There is some support about this story about him having a transgender. Charlie Kirk, alleged assassin Tyler Robinson, lived with a transgender partner, source says. There is some. The bullet thing is kind of like the manifesto. Writing something on the bullets that they're going to find. And then leaving behind a trail of evidence. This is just typical of what these packages. So, that was right off the bat. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin Tyler Robinson was living with a transgender partner who was in the process of transitioning from male to female. A law enforcement source confirmed to the Post Saturday. But he went to his house, and Lance Twiggs, 22, resides at the same address as Robinson lived. A relative of Twiggs confirmed to the Post Saturday that, yes, they were roommates. So this doesn't necessarily... is this Lance Twiggs? Is this guy Lance Twiggs? Is Tyler Robinson Lance Twiggs? And maybe this thing goes away, right? Because, sometimes there's storylines that come out there. But, this does not help the transgender community. If this kid is with is in a sexual relationship with a transgender and they're gay, whatever that is, right? That doesn't help the gay community and transgender community. They're going to be demonized by the right. Maybe retaliatory things happen. And then they roll out more of the bullshit agenda when the liberals get back in power. You're going to see extremes now of censorship and these things like all these different election cycles. Under Trump, all this right-wing shit is good to go, and then they start clamping down and censoring, deplatforming people. Like, this is the kind of shit that's going to happen. They just go back and forth, putting pressure on social media. And so doesn't seem like a totally definite. Who is Charlie Kirk's partner? Charlie Kirk, shooting suspect, was living with a transgender. So that seems to be the only news about this guy. Engraved with transgender, anti-fascist ideology, some sources urge caution. And so, this doesn't help the transgender community. I hope that everyone can see this. Whatever you feel about that community, they're fucked now. Like, if this turns out to be the reason why this guy did it, if he says that he's standing up for transgender people by assassinating Charlie Kirk, then you know how that's going to play out. And then how the secondary part of that is when it swings back to the left and they go after all these hate crimes and all this stuff. It's just they're inflaming, they're pouring gas on the fire of the division in our country, which I've talked about earlier. Okay, so I don't know if there's any more news. It's 4:02, so I'm kind of getting tired. It's been a weird day for me. So I'm going to read through the comments because I know there's going to be some, and I'll address that in a voiceover. If there's anything more about Tyler Robinson, I'll, it seems like they're not rolling anything out this weekend. Maybe on Sunday, but tomorrow's football day. Right? So Trump has a break the weekend. There's college football. There's NFL football on Sunday. And then Monday, they roll out more information about this guy. And then, there'll be a whole package, probably is what's going to happen. And so I might take tomorrow off in terms of making a fresh video on Monday. We'll see what happens, right? But right now, there isn't very much. Let me go through the comments. If there's anything more to add, I'll add it. These guys are all posers, right? They're insincere, inauthentic. And so I have a few more things. Speaking of posers, Tom McDonald. But here.
Most important one of all.
The way that she goes to a whisper for dramatic effect.
The evildoers.
The evildoers. Look out, you evildoers.
Responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love.
Okay, merciful love? Sounds like you're not giving any merciful love here, right? But that's, I think they killed him because Trump was doing poorly, right? like I said earlier, that makes the most sense. But anyways, what if it was Trump? And she knew it was Trump, and she's still pushing this agenda.
But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country.
Okay, so that's, she's acknowledging what I've said all along, that they have the victim consciousness and this is going to use this as a motivational tool. But, it's not going to do anything. I mean, like the Democrats are going to be in power again in 2 years. And then there'll probably be a Democratic president in another 2 years. World War III, there's going to be a lot more shit happening. Like this will be a distant memory in 2 months. It's like it never happened. Now, she might go around and have a successful tour. The guy's won an audience and, she might be able to still carve out a little place for herself in this whole thing. But, I mean, this is so icky.
In this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
Boom. This widow.
To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die.
Okay, so then she gets into that. That's how that led into the whole thing with her saying that they're not canceling any tours and she's going to take his place because, so she's a Valkyrie. Her battle cry is coming. And, this is going to appeal to some of these right-wing dopes and whatever. But the reality is, she's benefiting, Trump's benefiting. The trans community is losing, right? As of right now, liberals are losing, but not to the extent, it just sways back and forth with all this victimization bullshit. But let's go to Tom McDonald. All these clout chasers, as Charlie Kirk put it. Rest in peace, Charlie. What the hell is going on here?
The terrorists, they shot and killed the father, sent a message to Americans. They ain't gonna stop until they bury us. Dear Charlie, I don't know if you can see us now, but if heaven has a window, I sure hope you're looking down.
This fucking poser. Jesus Christ, bro. Did you have this written before it happened? Like, you have a...
Because we ain't going quiet, we go scream your name.
Okay, fuck this guy. Okay, so I'm going to read the comments. I haven't read through them. I'm going to read through them, and then when I find one that's worth responding to, I will. Maybe I won't find anything. I doubt it, though. So let's go through it here. Okay, so someone left this comment, and I'm not verifying this information. But, so Paul, a quick little piece of information to add to the fake narrative and add some more context, hopefully. Charlie recently had a viral clip of one of his debates where, being criticized for Israel, he kept on getting attacked online, and there were thousands of AI memes and things making fun of him, and mainly his appearance, which I thought was strange 2 months ago. Anyway, he caved under the pressure and was losing the battle of the youth and said, if I turned on Israel, I'd probably be killed. This is real LOL. Then apparently Netanyahu a few weeks back was keeping his army waiting for orders to attack someone while he was tweeting at Charlie and telling him how bad he was making him look, LOL. Now we have videos showing all the agents around Charlie giving the signals and things, making it look as obvious of an inside job as they can and his bogus story. I'm feeling that we are meant to think it was CIA and Trump and Mossad, but I think it was even a deeper deception trick, and the Trump-Kirk announcement was an AI Trump. Okay, so, this is what people think or whatever. I don't know. So, there are no negative comments here so far. I don't think the majority of people aren't going to post that. Once in a while, some dope finds their way to my channel. I've been kind of dope-free, and because of, that, I have no views anymore. But, Charlie Kirk did come out and kind of blame Israel, or saying Israel was, part of whatever that thing was, Jeffrey Epstein. And so, he was coming around. I think that's what, when I first heard his name, Candace Parker was saying Charlie Kirk was, starting to blame the Epstein thing on Mossad and, whatever. Like, maybe that's 3 weeks ago when I was listening to Candace Owen when she first broke from Trump. And then I stopped, just whatever, because it was Candace Owen. But the thing is, like, Israel is always a suspect. Mossad is always a suspect for assassinations. And we don't know how close we were getting to Mossad being outed as being responsible for Epstein. And if you have all these liberal kids who are anti-Israel, and then you have all the Jeffrey Epstein people who become anti-Israel, I mean, some of them are already, all the Epstein haters and all those people obsessed with Epstein, and they find out Mossad was involved. Then you have a very strong 30-40% of the population, very passionate, a lot of young people who are now, like fuck Israel kind of stuff, right? So, that's always a consideration here. So really no negative comments till this one. Wow, can't believe I used to believe in you. It's too bad you weren't an actual popular public figure and you weren't killed publicly. So I could say if it was just fake, and who gives a shit. So you wish that had happened to me, so you could say those words. So your threshold for wishing my death is that you could say, so I could say if it was just fake, and who gives a shit. So you would hope that I would become wildly popular, or whatever, Charlie Kirk level of, whatever, and that someone assassinated me, and you would want my death and all that stuff to happen just so you could say it's fake, and who gives a shit, right? Is that your threshold for wanting another human life to be taken, right? So, anyways, there's not very many negative comments here. Okay, another one here. Paul, you are a rootless nihilist. This is a step too far. There is no love in you. Well, there is plenty of love in me, right? I mean, people feel the love just through the videos alone, but there's love that I meditate on. The transmission that I receive from the Sajmark system is God's love. And so, Charlie Kirk, I feel no love or spirituality in him. And so this is, F. Kirk finds out everything we can about Tyler Robinson Manifesto. So the person probably did not watch my video. So who's to say? I don't care. But this is too far. Paul, you've gone too far. Paul, you've gone too far with your words. Like, this is the fucking internet. You know what people say on the internet? You know what things are out there? There's no too far. The internet, there's no too far. But anyways, that's probably just a comment on the title alone. Who's to say? Here's a vague comment. It's not really a negative one. If we laugh at someone pushing the vaccine who dies of the vaccine, that can only help stop people from taking the vax. If they laugh at someone getting shot, they can actually promote more people shooting. So while I agree laughing at people who die from the vax is similar, it actually can save lives even if it upsets the friends and family of the people who died. I agree, though, I often focus on things and get herded like a sheep, but we need leaders. Well, yeah. You need leaders in certain capacity, but everyone can think for themselves. But what I would say about this, like I said, when Farley died and my daughter died, nothing any piece of shit on the internet could say would make those things worse. Because I already have a disdain for people. Like, I understand people suck, right? And so, the comments, I don't know the last time I can't even think of a comment that bothered me. But people say horrible shit to me all the time. But I know people suck, and I know the internet sucks, right? And I just, I just don't read them. Like, people don't realize, like, if I get a lot of comments, if people are leaving a lot of comments, I'm just not going to be reading the comments, and eventually, it's like people want to read the comments. You have to make them short, and you have to understand that I've had millions of comments. I've read millions of fucking comments. Like, when I go walking, I walk between probably 5, 6, 7, 10 miles a day. 10 or 11 is the most I'll walk. Depends on how much I'm working outside. And, it's 20,000 steps. It's crazy. Like, I took 20,000 steps. It's amazing how many things we do over and over again, right? And, I've read since 2007 when I started this channel, I've had millions of comments, and I've, at least scanned most of them. And so when you have that experience, and you know how bad people suck, when I first started doing these when I started mocking people for their dumb comments, it just becomes silly. Like the whole thing, like people think their opinions and comments are so important. People's words should mean nothing because people are fucking stupid and make bad choices. People are making bad choices every day. And so if somebody of substance said something that would mean something to me, like say Master Charge, if he had said something that would, would have some spiritual effect on me, or listening to somebody that isn't about me when I'm reading like some misogynistic literature or something just resonates with me on the internet and it affects me in some way, for me to do better or to change something, or, if I said something and I felt like I hurt somebody else's heart and I could feel it in my own heart, which is, one of the side effects of the Sajmark system. You start feeling other people's hearts when you're talking to them. And especially if you hurt somebody, you feel the pain in your own heart. And it makes me feel bad. I feel empathy for the people. Charlie Kirk apparently somewhere said he didn't believe in empathy. And I might go look that up. But there's, there's no real comments here so far. I'll keep on going through them. But most of them are, these are people who also feel the same way, which of course they would. Like here's a person that says, I like how this channel gets into the dynamics behind what we see. It's an area that I haven't seen any channel dive into too much. So most of those things are about false flags. People aren't believing the official story. And so that's on Trump, right? There's a couple of comments. A lot of these comments are getting printed twice. I have a lot of these comments now. People are printing them twice. And still no hype button. Thank you, Paul. I think I'm going to let the selected victims compile the list and we'll buy it. And most will buy it. That was for Charlie Kirk video, but a person reacting to the Epstein part. Okay, so we got a live one here. Fuck you with PHUUUUUK. Fuck you, pockets of the past. Boy, you got me with that one. I'm not pockets of the future. I'm pockets of the past. And jerk off. That's what he said. Fuck you, pockets of the past, jerk off. And then a bunch of people led into this guy. And he didn't have anything else to say. Somebody said, what triggered you? And the guy said, your mom triggered my nuts. So, every once in a while you get a low consciousness dope that shows up. And somebody, questioned him, and then he had to insult the guy's mom. Because, that's what those guys do. I'm scrolling through these comments, and it's hard for me to do this. That's why I don't do those videos where people can comment, like live videos, because I get stuck I can't read the comments and talk at the same time. Like I can, but you can tell that I'm, it's like when you're looking at your phone, you're talking to somebody, you're not present. Here's one comment that's worth reading. Charlie Kirk operation perfect. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I called it the Charlie Kirk operation. And, it is an operation of some sort. Like, we don't know if it's completely a hoax. Like, we don't know if people died. We don't know any of these things. Because, what do you really know as fact, right? Whenever there's one of these psychological operations, whatever it is, they're moving you they're moving some portion of the population, or they're triggering you, or they're doing something, right? And most of the time it doesn't have much of an effect because people are just fucked. And people just don't care. People are like, whatever. And there'll be something else in 2 days. Like, how long will this story last? Right? If I make a video, Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit, in a month or two, no one will give a shit about it. And so there's more views. Like, I'm getting tons of views on these videos. So, I was down to under 2,000 views on some of my videos. And, 2,000 is nothing. Like, So, the video before Trump's weird birthday letter to Epstein only got 1,900 views. And then the video after that, smoking gun image from Epstein book, got 2,100 views. But that was interrupted by me putting the Charlie Kirk out, which got 7,595. I used to get, I had videos with 2 million views in them. So, anyways, and then F Charlie Kirk. Let's find out everything about Tyler Robinson. That video is at 4,000 views, and multiple comments, and people engage with the thing because people come to my channel when something like this happens, and then whatever else is there. But really, I mean, these stories come by so quickly now. Nobody's going to give a shit about this in a month. I mean, the majority of people. There'll be some diehard Charlie Kirk fans and whatever his wife is shitting out there in terms of content, whatever bullshit thing she's going to do, because she can't carry an audience like him. So that, the widow thing only lasts for so long. But maybe she gets a little bit of a fan base and they continue doing what they're doing, but and she'll show up every once in a while when they want to bring Charlie Kirk back up as some victim consciousness thing at a Trump, speech or something. He brings her up on stage or some shit like that. But, it won't last long. Okay, so, I guess the views that I'm getting, the 7,000 views, is because people are remembering that I called bullshit on the Trump thing way before everyone else. So they probably showed up for that reason. Because that second video wouldn't even have gotten a lot of notifications. But I thought there'd be more negative. So this video is mostly for my viewers. And a few people have, give it a thumbs down, but haven't said shit. But this guy, OMG, this guy is such an asshole capitalized. So damn cynical and negative. President Trump is the best president we've ever had. Look at what president has had to deal with. It's unprecedented in capital letters. His life is in jeopardy daily, capital letters. This guy talking as one of the most, who is the one who is incorrectly floating the Trump shooting was fake. Just two fakes, both capitalized. Incorrectly also capitalized. So the people that died, were they not real? Huh? Fool. By the way, President Trump had nothing to do with Epstein. They were acquainted up until it came out Epstein was a diddler. President Trump banned him from his clubs. You don't even know what Trump said. You say you love Trump. Trump said he banned him because he was hiring girls from his club. President Trump is not divisive, by the way. He responds to those who attack him, and we love him. We love it. It's about time. Love it is capitalized. Him is capitalized. Not is also capitalized. It's a great capitalized. It's great having a president who finally capitalized, strikes back capitalized, 3 exclamation points. I'm really sick of all these idiot Trump haters. Take a seat, Karen. Somebody wrote to, not really. I mean, this is just a real moron. Mentally impaired people, So really not much of a reaction. I figured there would be because of the there's more downvotes on this video than normal. Okay, so I mean, it's almost not worth reading these comments, but I'm scrolling through them. So, a man was killed at the Trump assassination attempt, and because no one saw blood gushing out of his neck, they responded appropriately. You're an idiot. No wonder your subs haven't grown in years. I haven't listened to you in years, and now I will unsubscribe. Charlie Kirk was a fine man, and could run circles around your intelligence, his faith in Jesus was unending. He was trying to wake up the brain-dead college students. You are a hateful man. You know, it's kind of great having these people show up every once in a while. It's funny. So I don't know. There's so many comments here. And, you know, most of them are people with their own theories about what's happened. But, you know, people don't believe the official story, at least people that come here. And, you know, everywhere else, too. Okay, so that's it. I'm still getting views of that other video. This video will be up around 6 or 7 o'clock tonight, 8 maybe. I don't know. It's not urgent. I might even do this one tomorrow. I don't know how I'll go about this. But anyways, you know, that was it. Those are 3. How many comments did I read? Like 4 negative ones? So I was a little surprised. Lots of comments to get through. See, here's the problem. You know, when we were kids, when I was a kid, not you guys, because, you know, most of you guys are probably a little bit younger than me, some older. But those of you who grew up when I did, and the people that grew up in, you know, the next generation, Generation X and Y, and then before that, even more so before that, you know, before the 60s, for the hippie movement, pretty much everybody agreed on the basic narratives. So if you were a left-wing person or a right-wing person, you agreed on the basic narratives. But what you disagreed on was the interpretation of these events, right? So people agreed with what they saw in the news. You know, they didn't think the news was manipulating them. I mean, people trusted the news and trusted Walter Cronkite or, you know, my mom watched another guy, David Brinkley. But whoever it was, they trusted the news people, that there was journalism. And, you know, they didn't trust the politicians because they were liars, of course, with Nixon and the impeachment. But, you know, before that, certainly more so. You know, that's why when Kennedy was assassinated, it was such a big event, right? And nobody questioned the official story until people started to do it. And after that, you know, other things started to be questioned, right? And so there were some things people questioned, but not like today. And you just had the news and people talking about the news. So you had some local guy, you know, some Cliff Clavin in a bar, some, you know-it-all, and people didn't like those people anyway. There was some fringe groups. The truth community was, you know, newsletters and AM radio stations, and you could be taken off the airways for spreading, which would now be called disinformation. And so if you were on AM radio, you had to get your license from the FCC to broadcast to people, and you had to, you know, uphold a certain level of official story where you couldn't deviate from that. So there really wasn't much of what we have now on the internet. And so now, so many years later, I don't know if it's better or if it's worse. It's certainly different. But now people have the ability to post their own research. And of course, with the internet, you can look into things. And now there's all these various narratives. So we don't agree with what we see anymore. And of course, there's deep fake and all these psychological operations and the ideas of false flags and things. So now, you know, everybody has a different version of what actually they're seeing happen. Like, people don't believe the official story. So the, you know, fabric of reality is being debated, right? You're debating over the fabric of reality. And so this is going to be probably the final voiceover in my Journey Series 1, 213 also as well, because it all needs to go in that. So I've covered this Charlie Kirk thing with that. And so with the Charlie Kirk thing, you know, with the questions, the comments, I mean, almost everybody is posting their own theory and what they think happened. And some of it is just, you know, what they believe they saw or didn't see, or what they think actually happened or didn't happen. And, you know, and that's, I mean, there's such a division now. People can't even agree on the basic, you know, understanding of events. So when my ex and I, things started to go south quickly. And the weird part for me was I became more loving and positive because I went through a whole thing, right, where I just felt like I had to be real positive. My ex was having these mental breakdowns and shit all the time, and I knew I was trapped. I couldn't get out. And I was like, you just got to make the best of it. And I, my need to look for the negative or be critical, I had to suppress that. Whatever part of me that did that, that's more a part of these videos. But for that, time period, I wasn't doing that. So I became nicer and better and more positive. And that triggered my ex, in a way that was, predictable for her, but she went the opposite way, right? That triggered her. She wanted me to be more of an asshole, even though she said she didn't, right? This kind of thing. And there was a point when I realized events that we had shared, like things we had gone through, and, just everyday events, she would describe completely differently than I would. Like she was saying things that, like, this didn't happen, and interpreting things in ways that weren't true. I mean, there's always going to be some deviation over time. Your memories fade. Your memories aren't accurate anymore. Every time you have a memory, it gets a little distorted from when it actually happened, right? There's a distortion in your actual experience of the events. And so we all have some distortion. We all have some subjectivity. But I'm talking about, like, she was, like, seeing things, like hallucinating about these things. I had the understanding that when you go see a movie and you start talking to somebody about the movie afterwards, and you've realized that you guys sat through a movie, but your experience of the movie is completely different. But I'm talking about where reality isn't even that. Like, you can't even agree on what you just saw, right? You can't agree on the actual, event that you had, the actual experience you just had. And so when that happens, you can't be in a relationship because you can't agree on reality. And that's what's happened across the board in America, the world, especially now with the internet. People can't agree on, basic fundamental parts of reality. So you can't have a relationship, you can't have dialogue, because you're disputing what you're actually seeing. Everybody's seeing things in a completely different way, and then interpreting them that way, right? I mean, if you see people witness a crime, people are seeing it from a different angle, but also seeing it through a different lens. And so when they describe the crime, it's going to be different. And they, let's say there's a fight between a husband and a wife the wife is baiting the husband and provoking him. And, people who see that and, who have some empathy for the husband will say she deserved it, right? Whereas you'll have feminist women who would say, like, she was just speaking her truth and the man couldn't handle it and he got physical, right? So, but the events themselves, their interpretation of the event would, be, in the past would be, everyone would agree on the basic facts of the event, but their interpretation would be different. And the way they would describe it would be altered because of that. But now it's so fucking skewed. And that's how all these things are. Like, that's why I say I don't care about it, because, these things are being done to manipulate people. It's a massive manipulation campaign for a desperate president and a desperate system that's hanging on by its fucking fingernails and doing everything it can to stop from falling, losing its grip and free falling. And so that's why it's so manipulative and deceptive now. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. Its power motto definitely points to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.